generally you said feminism is neutral.
Here's what actually happened.
The foundation of all money. I'm really mad that
what difference does it make, right? What
Stop.
The deregulation of the industry is obviously going to cause more of that industry.
And to lubricate the trust connection between people until they have enough.
Yet we could still look at biological reality in determining who's a female, even if there are.
Why don't you denounce feminism the same way you're denouncing capitalism? If you don't...
For something to be objective, it needs to be verifiable. And you can't verify...
If I make a claim as a political pundit, it is true that I definitely could be wrong. You're promoting, right?
Ideology is the main tenet of politics, right? This is my ideology. So 2015, anyone go back and watch the footage? The first GOP debate.
Cool, Robert. Oh, that? With a crowbar, you said.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back. I am Sara the Raging Tomato here, bringing to you live Moderator Monday. This evening, we are going to discuss the the statement, we are better off having elected Trump than Kamala. With me this evening, I have Rob Noir and RTP Talks, both ready to duke this one out. Rob, would you like to start off with your opening statement, please?
Sure. Thanks so much, everyone, for being here. I've been looking forward to this. I think it'll be a lot of fun. So the statement is that I'll be affirming that we are better off having elected Trump than Kamala. Now, the first thing we have to do is get a couple definitions out of the way. The first would be the definition we. Now, it sounds stupid, but I do think that this is important. It's potentially a point of contention. When I say that we're better off, what I mean are the citizens of this country. I'm uninterested in how people in China, for example, are doing better if we elected someone who's weak on China, like Kamala Harris and Joe Biden, versus that they may be worse off if the competitive nature of our economic relationship against them favors Americans more than them. And so I think for the purposes of this debate, when I say we are better off, because it's intuitive that we're talking about voting, it should be the people that could legally vote that we're saying are the ones that are better off. And so that's what I mean by it. We'll see if RTP disagrees, but that's the lens through which I will be using this. Once we get that out of the way, semantics should all but be done. And the question becomes, in what way would we be able to decide whether or not Trump would be better than Kamala? Now, it's always difficult in the best of times to know what a person would do if elected president if they don't make it. We could go back and question, what would Gore have done? What would Romney have done? And so forth. However, it's going to be even more difficult in the case of Kamala Harris, who Joe Biden may have been a human vegetable, but Kamala Harris is just an empty soup. On the debate stage, she'll call Joe Biden a racist one night for saying that he's against forced busing, and then the next day say she's against it as well. So it's difficult to know what her actual positions would be. I think that there is two possibilities that we could look at when looking at her positions. One would be her radical Green New Deal-esque policies and her more progressive nature that showed forth in her 2020 bid for presidency that she failed miserably. Or, as she admitted on The View and other places, the fact that she could think of no substantive differences that she would have done different than the Biden administration. That means that either we're comparing the 6 months we've had of Donald Trump right now with either the Kamala Harris, Joe Biden administration previously, or a more progressive version of that. I'll leave you pick which one would be more of a desire or disaster, but I think that it would be evident that most people would say in almost all metrics, Donald Trump has been far superior to either of those two outcomes. In this debate, it'll be crucial not just to look at the record of Joe Biden, but comparatively, which is what we're talking about, that he would be better than Kamala Harris. This means that I don't have to prove that I like everything that Donald Trump has done, nor do I have to prove that he's the perfect president and that he's better than anyone ever. All I need to prove is that he's better than what Kamala Harris, which is just an extension of the Biden administration, would have been. And there's several ways that we'll be able to use this. I'll give 4 in general that we'll look at. The first would be domestic policy. That would include things like immigration, which I think it is obvious that Trump has been far better on immigration. The truth is that open borders were a choice. We were gaslit by the Harris-Biden administration over and over that the border was secure, that it wasn't a problem. Then once they saw it was an issue come election season, they tried to pretend to care about it all of a sudden. And Donald Trump has lowered from the peak times of Joe Biden and Kamala Harris's administration anywhere from 95 to 97% of border crossings. Well, shit.
Did he freeze?
Yeah, can you guys hear me?
I can hear you, but you have a very funny face that you froze.
My entire computer screens just went black.
Oh no.
That's my bad. There's a lot of witches in my audience, and this could have been them. Guys, could you not do that? We've talked about this. We do not cast spells on debate opponents.
I'm so
that,
sorry,
please.
Rob. It's okay. You take your time and figure it out if you can. Are you still with us, Rob? Oh no, I think we lost him.
Did I win? Did I win? I think I won. That's a forfeit.
It's okay. Oh goodness. Well, we'll rattle off until he gets sorted out. And I don't want to let you go yet because I want him to be able to hear anything, but I will go ahead and announce number 1. I'm super excited. We hit 16,000 subscribers as of last night. Keep the ball moving, my darling maters. Keep sending this to your friends. Your mama will like me. Your dad would probably like me more because I'm just cute as a button. So keep sending this out, sharing, and do what you keep doing best, Mater Nation. Also, DebateCon 6 has officially been released for ticket purchases. They've got an early bird special going right now. Get in while you can because I think those tickets are going to fly. And once they're gone, they're gone. So you want to go ahead and run on over to Modern Day Debate. And they have the tickets available and ready for purchase. Do it now. I will be there. Go ahead. Rob, are you back with us all together?
I think. Give me 1 second. That's never happened to me, so I don't know what it is, Sarah. Every time I do your channel, something disastrous. Something disastrous is
Everyone
happening.
else who comes here is perfectly fine. So maybe it's a you problem, Rob.
That's most likely the case. So let's take that up. Okay. I think everyone could hear me. We should be good. RTP, Sarah, you could hear me? I'll try to continue where I left off. So what we can see is, and apologies, I don't think it'll happen again with my computer, but I don't know. That's never happened. Anyways, we'll just keep going and hope it won't. So I think what we could see when it comes to the border, that Donald Trump has almost completely eliminated that. We'd also look at domestic policies like things with the economy. And we could see with the economy that things that really matter, like real wage growth, are up incredibly. Gains for the group that we're looking at, voters or citizens of the United States, are up immensely. So job growth when it comes to the domestic population is through the roof. The jobs that we are losing are people that are foreign-born workers. We also see things like government jobs that are declining and meaningful private sector jobs that are being created. And again, the most important thing is going to be that inflation number and real wage growth, which is markedly better under Donald Trump than it was under Joe Biden. We could also see that there is other things that are going on with immigration, terrorism, et cetera, that we could get into if you want. Then there are foreign policy issues. I think that you'll see that there are a bunch of peace deals. And even if everything hasn't been perfect, like we haven't ended the war with Russia, Ukraine, and maybe some people don't like a lot of the stuff that's going on with Israel, Palestine, I think that it's no different than what we would have saw with the Kamala Harris at best, or at worst. And at best, we could see that it's actually markedly better than it would be with Donald Trump. The third category that I'll talk about is sort of important issues of corruption. And we can see when it comes to issues of corruption, my personal first reason for voting for Donald Trump was exposing the corruption of the institutions that are going against them. And I think that you could see, 1 second.
Take your time.
For some reason, it's saying that I'm muted, and I can't figure out why that would be the case. Oh, okay. Now I should be good. I'm so sorry.
That's okay.
It's fucking It's always technology that lets me do it. Anyways, when it comes to these issues of corruption, I think that you could see that it's actually far worse under Joe Biden, and things are going to be exposed that we've seen since 2016, the corrupt efforts to go after Trump. All of that's a precursor to be able to do anything in this country, because if we actually have an FBI and other institutions that are putting their thumb on the scale and are corrupt, then what we'll see is that it will be impossible for the will of the people to ever be instituted through voting. And the fourth reason, and maybe the most important, is that it shifted the Overton window on cultural issues. So a bunch of these 80-20 issues like trans issues, or sort of the idea that we have to be wilting flowers, you're starting to see more and more conservatives that are unwilling to put up with that. They're calling out things like degeneracy. They're calling out things like the murder of babies and other things of that nature, and that's a good thing. They're no longer worried about cancel culture, and the Overton window and the pendulum are shifting back. So I think all those are reasons that we're going to prefer Trump. With Kamala, we could see that she would have been negative and all of the things we talked about. In addition to that, though, she was the person who the disinformation czar was put under, and so we would probably see more censorship like those we saw on the Twitter files. She wanted to ban fracking in states like Pennsylvania. We could see the disastrous Democrat policies in places like New Jersey right now that are leading to 3 times the cost of electric bills. She lied about Biden's health for years, which shows that she's one of the most dishonest people imaginable, including on a blatant issues such as Biden's cognitive health. And we would see more of the Luigi Mangione sort of left-wing people that think that they could just go ahead and use violence against people they don't like, including the left-wing attacks that we've seen against ICE agents. You would see all of that normalized even more. Last thing I'll say is, when it comes to me and RTP specifically, I think because of that disinformation board, we should actually prefer Donald Trump for both of our careers as streamers, because there's less likely that we'll be censored. And in fact, RTP should really favor Donald Trump as an individual. One, because it gives him content to talk about, because it was impossible for him to try to defend the Biden administration. So at least now he has red meat about Orange Man Bad he could talk about. Plus, I believe his primary platform's TikTok, and I don't think it would exist without Donald Trump at this point. So yeah, for those reasons, I'm willing to get into the debate, but I think I'll be able to win on those issues that Trump is marginally better than Kamala Harris on all of those issues.
Thank you, Rob. RTP to you, please.
First, I'm good with your definition of we, Rob. That works for me. I'm good on that. Rob's position here is that he's going to be able to justify that Donald Trump is a better candidate than Kamala. Rob, just out of good faith, can you say her name right, or is it like do you do it on purpose? Do you purposely say her name incorrectly?
Tone policing already. Kamala?
No, I'm just wondering.
Is that it? Kamala? Is that how you pronounce it?
Is it Kamala or Kamala?
Kamala.
Cool.
Oh, I always say it wrong then.
Okay, cool. I just making sure. Sometimes people do it like they try and trigger people. I don't care. You can say however you want. I just didn't know. Donald Trump, I listened actually, you debated my friend Adam. And on that debate with Adam, you said that the only reason you needed to justify Donald Trump is that he's better than the status quo. I would make the argument that Donald Trump is the epitome of the status quo. There's nothing about his first presidency that really stood out and left him above everybody else. Now, it seems like you want to ignore his first 4 years and focus only on these 6 months, but you're willing to take Kamala Harris and only Joe Biden's first 4 years. I would probably make the argument that the first 4 years of Donald Trump's presidency are also important. There's nothing remarkable about his growth of the GDP. He was largely on pace with his predecessor pre-COVID, and then post-COVID with Biden. So far, this presidency, GDP growth is well below average at 1.5%. If that continues, he's on pace to be an all-time loser. So if I were you, I would take the first 4 years too into account. Under Trump, wage gains are steady, not exceptional in his first term. I think the average monthly gain was 0.24%. Under Joe Biden, the average monthly gain was 0.29%. So pretty damn close, but Joe Biden was just slightly better. So in both of those instances so far, Joe Biden's slightly better. One of the few places I will give Donald Trump and Republicans credit is that they are better than anybody at exploding the deficit. When you factor out pandemic relief, Trump added $4.7 trillion to the deficit. Biden added about 2.6 trillion. If you leave in the COVID pandemic, Trump increased the deficit by the debt by 7.8 trillion, and Biden grew it by 4.7 trillion. Fiscal responsibility is not really something that conservatives know much about. It's something they love to talk about. The place where we can draw a distinction is Donald Trump better than the status quo? Because if we have to take Kamala Harris based on what she ran on and what Joe Biden did, I think it's a fair comparison for Rob to say, like, I don't get to be all sunshine and rainbows. I don't get to do the what ifs if she was president and make up all these phony numbers. I'm actually pretty comfortable comparing Donald Trump with Joe Biden. Now let's talk about strategy, because I know we have a lot to cover and I know Rob's very prepared. I like Rob. I have no issue with Rob, despite somebody trying to make it seem like I called you a bitch earlier. I was just calling a fascist in the chat who was threatening a bitch. So I want to be clear on that. I didn't call you a bitch. But I've watched you debate, and I've created some handheld signs to avoid over talking, so we don't have to do that. So what I'm going to do is the things that Rob likes to do, his strategy, instead of interrupting him, I'm just going to hold up signs when he's doing something. The first thing Rob loves to do is gish gallop. This is a strategy that's employed by people who play the game of politics, which is what Rob is playing. Rob's going to gish gallop on points where he can't make a standalone point, so he's going to give a bunch of unverified definitive claims into a sentence. If I can debunk one claim, he will require me to go back and debunk all of them. So instead of that, I'll just hold up the sign. The biggest thing Rob's going to do, it's called reframing the argument. You will hear a lot tonight when I say something, Rob will respond by saying what he means is, and then Rob will change my words into a different argument. And if I don't just hold up this sign and I say, that's not what I said, Rob will scream at me. So I'm going to hold up the sign. The third thing he's going to do is he's going to poison the well. Any type of source that he doesn't like, he's going to poison it in that statement. There's going to be a lot of this straw man, because what Rob may not know about me is I'm not a Democrat. I've only voted for Democrats one time in my whole life. So you don't get to use like the generic Democrat straw man positions with me. You're going to have to ask me what my position is. And last but not least, Rob's dessert, whataboutism. So I've prepared these signs for Rob. I hope we can have a good debate. It's good to be back on the Raging Tomato. Let's go.
Fair enough. Thank you to both of you. And I do want, for full transparency, I already spoke with both gentlemen backstage because they both can talk for long periods of time. We are just going to accept that, and nobody's going to interrupt. We're not going to make the claim of filibuster or this or that. We're just going to allow them to talk, and then we'll get back to responding. Outside of that, please be sure to like, subscribe, share. Both gentlemen, I believe, are restreaming, so feel free to go over and send your love their way. We will also get through the debate. We will run into closing statements, and then we will read and respond to your kind super chats. If too many come in, which is a good problem to have, we might have to only read $10 and up. So just be wary of that. Outside of that, gentlemen, the floor is yours.
When you say we should compare to the status quo, define status quo. You muted, I think.
Shit, thanks. I do that.
Should have focused more on that than making signs. But
yeah, that's solid. My joke was still funnier though. I think the status quo. I went back the last 8 blocks of 4 years, and I said, like, where's the difference between? I would say like 2 or 3 different administrations that ideologically are quite different, and you can see that a lot of the things that we argue about, the president really has very little impact on them. And so that's why you see like GDP growth, wage growth. I broke down wages, the smallest possible gap, which was monthly gain, and I compared Trump, Biden, and Obama.
In your estimation, then, what issues would you say separates Trump from the status quo? If you're going to say wage growth, we shouldn't really count. There's a bunch of things that we say the president doesn't have an effect on. Then what are the things that you say are a negative for Trump that separates him from the status quo?
Deficit spending.
Okay, deficit spending. Sure, we could start there. Is there any other, though, before we get into that, so that later you don't say, well, there were these other issues? Like, can you just give me a general outline of other areas that you think that would be rife for comparing Trump to, quote, the status quo?
As far as like economic policy?
Doesn't matter in general, foreign policy, economic policy, etc.
I mean, there's a lot of ways he's different that I don't necessarily care a great deal about. We could talk about him, but I don't care a great deal about it. Obviously, ideologically, he and I don't align. I don't like his delivery. I don't think he's like an effective leader. I don't think he's very unifying. There's a lot of ways I think he's unique. but those are pretty hard to quantify.
So if we were to say, you heard me say a list of things like immigration, you don't think he has an effect on that?
Actually, no, that's where you're right. I do think that the border being closed up is probably the greatest accomplishment of a Trump administration. And I don't think that Vice President Harris would have closed the border in the same way. In fact, I mean, I think we would be living in a pretty different world right now.
Okay, so Trump did good on immigration. The economy, I promise we'll get into. Do you think that a status quo president would have released evidence of the corruption we saw in like 2016 with the release of like the Russiagate files?
Yeah, I know that you desperately want to talk about Crossfire Hurricane. I'm not that interested in that. I've seen your opinions on that. I think I don't think they're very good. I've seen what was released. I covered the ICA report that they just released. It's a nothing burger. You posted it. It's a nothing burger. There's nothing there. I'm not super interested in spending 3 hours on like relitigating Crossfire Hurricane with a non-attorney when we've already, I mean, we've covered it a million times already. It's been covered and covered and covered. It's been investigated over and over. No.
Okay. Do you think that the status quo presidents would have moved the Overton in window on things like trans issues?
I don't think it's moved nearly as much as you think it has.
Okay. Do you think that a status quo would have defended a human vegetable like Joe Biden for 4 years?
I don't agree with that. I don't agree with that interpretation.
Okay. So then we will get into those issues. Now, I'm more than happy to take it to the direction you want, but I will say that I don't think you've said anything whatsoever about negatives of Trump at this point. And despite the fact that you have clever cards that are going to say things like
deficit
what about
spending? Is that a positive?
No, we'll get to that. And I promise that's basically all that you've said. But what I want to get to is the fact that it seems that you did a lot of time like coming up with clever cards and saying what I was going to say, but you didn't really say much in your opening statement. And
That's
so
right,
I'm more than willing to get into like one by one these things. But we're going to talk about a lot of things that you're going to say is whataboutism. But when the prompt is that we're comparing Trump to Kamala Harris, not to your nebulous vision of what the status quo is, I think that you're going to hinge on saying whataboutism every time I say that Trump's marginally better than the Biden-Harris administration. You're going to want to compare it to things like Obama and W. Bush and Bill Clinton, which wasn't our option.
You're strawmanning my objections already?
I mean, the clever sign means nothing to me. If you have nothing to say, that's fine. We can move on to the deficit spending argument. Fine by me.
I thought that's what we were talking about. I've been waiting to start on the deficit spending.
Your numbers were, how much did Trump in total add to the deficit?
7.8 trillion.
And how much did Biden add?
4.7 trillion.
Okay, can you show me the source for those numbers? Those aren't the numbers that I'm getting.
That's from CRFB.
CRFB. Okay, can you link that in the private chat? Can you screen share anything of that nature?
I can pull. I'll get it. I can drop it in the private chat. Where'd you pull your numbers from?
I can't remember. I think maybe it was self.inc, which was taking numbers, I believe, from the Treasury Department. But it said the national debt started at 27.8 trillion on January 1st, 2021, and raised to 36.2 trillion by January of 2025. That's $8.4 trillion. So I'd be interesting. That's a pretty big discrepancy between my numbers and yours. Are you froze up?
I think he's looking up.
No, I think he may have froze.
Nuh-uh.
What's going on?
Us? It is not me. I promise it is not me. I am not the common denominator.
I can, let's see here. Do we have the ability to screen share here? Is that all right? I'll bring my data up just when he gets back so that
we
you
can
look.
We'll give him just a moment.
Yeah, sure.
That did it to mine too. The whole screen went.
Can you guys still hear me?
You know, somebody did say that StreamYard was having an issue lately. We were fine last. I can hear you. I think he's probably going to take him a second. If his did whatever it did to yours. Are you both out? What the hell is? You're frozen.
I'm frozen.
Is Rob frozen too?
He looks frozen on my end.
This is terrible. It's my fault. You all have my permission to blame the woman of the evening. I will take it. It's fine. But somebody did mention that StreamYard was having issues, but all of my stuff is showing excellent. Everything says fine. My signal's fine.
I'm checking mine. It's good on my end too.
You're just frozen. Okay, Rob's gone. You
Wait,
might
is
have
my
to.
picture frozen on yours?
Yeah, all I see is just your face. So
Do you want me to
actually,
leave and come back?
Yeah, that would help.
All right.
Total L for Sara this evening. Nobody won the debate, but I definitely lost my entire reputation thanks to StreamYard. The show is a squash. And I'll take another moment. If you have not gone over to Modern Day Debate to get your tickets for the DebateCon 6, now's the time to go do it while we're waiting for them to both get back on screen and get sorted through. My deepest apologies.
Yeah, I have no idea what's going on. I'm so sorry.
Yeah, I don't
apparently
know.
it did it to him as well.
Did you turn it off and back on again? Fuck you, Grid.
That's what I did. Oh,
no, Grid's yelling at me in the chat. No, somebody mentioned that StreamYard's been doing issues lately. I'm just gonna do fix problem, kick Ryan.
I don't know what the hell's going on. Now I'm afraid to bring up any sources because
we'll play with it. Let's see if it works. I mean, it should be fine. We'll take it. I will take the tomatoes in the chat for the big tomato L of the evening. Both gentlemen won the debate. I lost everything. It works. We're fine. All right. Everything up for you two.
Yeah, I think I'm good.
Okay.
Good.
All right. We were back to wanting to share a screen, I believe.
Okay. I'm afraid to try, but here we go.
We'll give it a whirl.
All right. Here you can see national debt under Biden's risen from 28 trillion in January 2021 to 36.2 in January 2025. That's an increase of $8.4 trillion. Now, I'm not guaranteeing that this is correct. That's why I'm asking where you're getting your information from.
I'm trying to pull it up from CFRB right now.
Okay, I'll stop screen sharing.
What did you have Trump's debt at?
I don't know that I had those numbers in front of me.
Did you need to go back up?
I will. Is it cool if I? And that's okay. You did that, yeah. That's screen share.
And what are you polling here? Just total debt. So I'm polling gross federal debt. What are you polling?
That was total national debt, which I believe is the number that we should be looking at.
Okay, let's see if it holds. If the weight holds the same, like if the ratio is the same.
Do you want me to pull
it
that
won't
one
matter
up,
if the
Rob?
ratio is the same.
Okay, so you want me to try to use the same source to see what they said about, I'll see if I could find that here. It would be helpful to get from the same source. But what was the starting debt under Trump and what was the ending debt? Do you have any, your numbers? I mean, what did your numbers suggest?
Oh, my numbers?
Yes.
We were at, excluding COVID, 4.7 trillion, and adding COVID, 2.6 trillion.
Let's see. This says from the same site. It's not listed the same. It's a different article. But if you don't mind, it's not the right one. During Donald Trump's presidency, the U.S. national debt increased 8.18 trillion.
Where are you at? Oh, there we go.
So that's less than it increased under the Biden presidency.
Is that including COVID?
That is the total national debt numbers for both presidents.
Okay, so roughly the same.
Yeah, a little worse under Biden.
If you look at gross, then a better performance for Biden. So yeah,
what do you mean if you look at gross? I don't understand what you mean by that term.
Gross federal debt, I believe, let me make sure I have this right. I believe gross federal debt factors in the debt you owe to yourself.
It sounds to me that like the number one attack you have on Trump, it's like, oh, he was a little bit better than Biden. That's what it sounds like. That was your big attack.
It looks like a little bit worse, actually.
No, I don't think so. When we look at the total
deficit refers to the difference between the total amount of money the government spends and the total amount of money it takes in over a specific period, usually a fiscal year. Okay, so I don't know where you're getting these numbers from. I'm getting my numbers are from the. I think I have a better source here.
Okay,
I think your numbers
throw them
are
on stage.
wrong.
Throw them on stage. Let's see.
If you go to cfrb.org,
just screen share so we could all see it.
Okay, I've got to pull it back up now.
So this is going to be the total debt that when they entered and when they left office.
Let me pull it back up. Oh my God, how do I get to that?
Your numbers sounded ridiculous, which is why, like, you said that the total debt of Biden was something like 4 point something trillion. That sounds ridiculous. I'll admit that Trump spent a lot, but comparatively to other presidents, it's sort of right on line, especially with Biden.
That's what I said. He's basically status quo.
No. You differentiated. You said your one differentiation on his negative was the fact that he was a really bad debt spender, which Biden did worse.
On gross, yeah. Hold on. Let me pull this up.
If that's your offense for this debate, I think you're in a very weak position because I've outlined about 7 or 8 things.
You're the offense, bud. You're the offense. I'm playing defense.
No.
Or no, you're defense. Excuse me. Yeah.
What are you talking about? Like, I'm saying that there are offensive reasons to prefer Trump over Kamala, and you're saying that's not true, right? And I gave a bunch, and the one argument you gave is offense against Trump because you're like, basically he's the same as everyone else. The one piece that you articulated was, well, he deficit spends more than others. He drove up the debt more than others. It doesn't seem that's the case.
It is the case, and I'm going to drop it in the chat right now. Where does the check?
Should be if you want to just bring it in the private chat, it's on the should be on the right hand side.
There's a button at the bottom of your screen yard that'll say share.
Yeah, I'm clicking it and it won't pull up. It's weird. Can I send it to you on just Twitter, Sarah? Is that all right?
Yeah. Is it a link, or you can put it in the private chat? It's fine.
I just DM'd it on Twitter. It won't let me pull up the private chat. That's the thing. I'm clicking on the button and it's just staying still. I think it's a problem on mine. So I just sent it to your DMs on Twitter.
Okay, I'll bring it up. Give me just a second.
Meanwhile, if that's all you have, the deficit spending, like when we look at the actual economic numbers under that, it is clear by almost every available metric that Donald Trump first term, which I'm shocked that you want to talk about because he absolutely cleans Biden and Kamala Harris's clock in that first term. So I don't know why you would bring that up when it comes to economic numbers.
Well, I gave you the monthly average monthly gain when it came to wages, and Biden outperformed Trump there too.
But wages are irrelevant. Wages are irrelevant. Real wage growth is what's going to matter.
This is real wage growth.
No, it's not.
It is.
Say you're going to be wrong about a second data point. Your argument is that real wage growth under the Harris-Biden administration was positive?
Average monthly gain.
What was the total real wage growth under the Biden-Harris administration? It was negative. I believe it was about -8.
What's your source there?
What's your source?
Oh, bro, I just gave you my source, the CFRB. I've given you. You're the only one that hasn't given a source yet, Rob.
First off, I gave a source before you. I don't know if you remember that.
Is that straw?
Am I supposed to hold up a sign that says straw man there?
You just said I don't. You literally said I don't know where the source is from.
No. I didn't know where the source was from when it comes to. First off, I didn't say I don't know where the source is from originally with the Trump stuff, with the numbers that you're talking about, the deficit spending. But I said. I gave the number about the negative growth under Biden. I could find the source if you want. Yeah, but let's start one at a time because I think that for someone who prides themselves.
Can we come back to the share screen and let me know what I need to be looking at? Let's go with that. Is this where you want me to be at our?
So again, I mean, what are you trying to show here? What date was this from?
Future borrowing.
What date is this from?
So when you look at deficit spending, you can't just look at what's current. You also have to look at what's projected. So they have a 10-year CBO score.
Nope, don't buy
it. You don't have to look at what you're on the hook for.
Nope. Let's look at the real outcome of what happened.
Future expenditures.
Yes, that's what we look at. We look at the real
why
outcome.
Would you factor out future expenditures?
We look at the real outcome. We're going to look at the real outcome of what they spent.
Why
now you're misleading.
Why would you
go ahead? You get it out.
Why would you factor out future expenditures?
You get it out. So that's misleading what you originally said.
Why won't you answer this question?
I am answering the question.
Hold on.
It's misleading with what you originally said. You're now moving the goalpost is what you're doing because you were incorrect. You said that when it came to the debt, that it only went up about 4-point-something trillion under Biden. Now you're saying, well, we should just look at estimations of what will happen in the future. That's markedly different. No, we shouldn't do that. I will answer specifically the question. We shouldn't do that because oftentimes
future spending, Rob. Gross federal debt includes it. You're not using the data correctly.
Oftentimes, those predictions are inaccurate. They say all sorts of stuff about what they estimate, and it's not true. Furthermore, your data that you're using right here, I strongly suggest, isn't even from the end of Biden's term. You know how I know that? See if you could take a guess how I know that this wasn't from the end of Biden's term.
This is not including the last year of his term, correct?
Oh,
we don't have those numbers updated yet.
So just to be clear, so far he has approved
we didn't have the updated numbers yet.
6.2 trillion in gross borrowing, and that's just 3 years. So I just want to go through the ways that you misrepresent.
It's not in 3 years. It includes future spending, Rob.
Please.
You don't know what you're looking at.
I do know what I'm looking at.
What are you looking at?
I'll leave you go ahead and get out what you need, and then I'll say unfettered.
What are you looking at?
I'm looking at the actual debt that was increased. I'm looking at the number of what the debt was when they came into office and the number it was when they left. You claimed that that's what you were doing. Now you've misrepresented twice. The first misrepresentation, you said this has to do with estimations on what they think that the future may be. The second was that you pretended that this data was comprehensive and was through Biden's full term. And it took me actually pressing you to show that that's not true. Even your numbers that you show here show that he approved $6.2 trillion, and that's with a year to go. That would be right in line with what my source, which is going to be better, would actually looked at what the debt was the day they came into office and the debt when they left. And in that metric of the actual spending that occurred and the actual amount that the debt went up, Joe Biden was worse. You can't defend it.
By the data that I'm using, and I'm looking at gross federal spending, which you seem to not want to address. You have to look at the spending that's approved. When you do a CBO score, whenever you release a new tax policy, that's why they score it for 10 years, and that's why they have expiration dates. So you have to account for the spending included in your bill for when these either tax cuts or spending expires. You have to account for all of that. What you're right about is that you might not be able to project revenues accurately, and that's why you get inconsistent CBO scores. But I'm talking about approved spending here.
So again, my data is going to be better because it looks at the actual total amount that was spent, period, at the end of Biden's term. And it says that that number was higher than at the end of Donald Trump's first term. So you saying, but it's predictive of the future is irrelevant. We already have the final totals. And in those final totals, Biden was worse than Trump.
Are we done with the screen share, gentlemen?
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you.
With 2 COVID stimulus too, right?
I mean, you can move the goalposts. That's fine.
No, I'm just saying.
I want you to admit that you were wrong. I want you to admit that you were wrong.
No, you didn't understand my claim.
No. I understood exactly what your point was. Admit that you were wrong. That come the end of the day, all estimations aside, that the debt went up more under Joe Biden in his 4 years than it did under Donald Trump in his. Admit that you were wrong.
Remember at the beginning, I told you guys that what Rob does is he takes your argument and he reframes it. And that's what he's doing right now. You didn't understand what I was looking at, Rob. We have you want to talk about 2 different data points. Those 2 different data points are different. But I think
it's prediction?
The source that you just far more impactful. I think it's
we'll stay on this. I'm fine. I'm fine with this.
Spending.
I'm fine with this.
I also think
Gentlemen,
that when you pull out the COVID spending, it's pretty obvious.
Not interested in moving the goalposts right now. We're gonna hammer in on this. So that source that you just linked us, it's predictive. What's it predictive for what Biden would spend in it? So far, it says that it predicts he'll spend $6.2 trillion. What was its predictive nature for what he would spend in the 4th year?
I don't have that report in front of me. I'd have to pull that up.
Then how would we know that based on the data that you gave us that you're correct in your estimation that it would have been less?
You could go look it up.
Why don't you? You're the person who's using it as a source.
Yeah, but you also didn't do yours either, right?
That's not true. I provided you with a source that was comprehensive and accurate.
Is that what we're going to do, Rob? We're going to chase down source. We can just go to the next point. If you disagree on this,
we'll go to. I'm more than happy.
I'm more than happy. I don't have time to go over an entire economic study with you live on air. If you want to refute it, I'm more than happy. You can go refute it. I think that's a reputable source. That's how debates work. If you have a reason to believe that data is incorrect, please cite your reason. But right now, all you're doing is you're attacking a source that you know nothing about, as a way to try and escape the argument. We can move to the next point, Rob.
Now, I know you want to move to the next point. I'll take your concession that you were wrong. The reason that your data is unpreferred to mine was you were misrepresenting what it actually says. This data came under your own claims that you knew this was only 3 years of spending of Joe Biden. You make this big claim about, well, it's about predictive spending, and yet you refuse to acknowledge that that predictive spending would be done at the time of the close of Biden's administration in 2025. You could say it's reframing. The only person reframing the argument's you. You initially came in and said this was about the total debt, that Trump increased the total debt more than Biden. Then you tried to reframe your argument and said, no, it's about predictive spending. But it's not about that because we have the complete numbers of how much each president spent. You already admitted that, okay, they can't predict revenue, but they can predict how much it said. So the total numbers would be best. And then lastly, you misled people that this was comprehensive. It wasn't. It was only for 3 years. And you're too bullheaded to just admit, I was wrong. I was wrong about this central point. Just admit you were wrong.
So what you'll see, you can go back and you can rewatch this. You'll notice that everything Rob just said, I never said, which means he's reframing the argument. This is what he does. Well done, Rob.
Total amount of deficit. Who increased the deficit total more, Trump or Biden?
Looks like Biden by a hair.
Okay, cool. That was your one argument. Great. Sounds good. All right, so you were wrong. You were wrong about that argument. Now, next thing we're going to move on to, you said that real wage growth was up under Joe Biden. It went up like 2%.
This one. Rob will also declare he wins every argument without any proof.
Hey, you're doing great in the sign game. I think you're doing fantastic here. Next argument that you made was, by the way, without any proof, you just admitted it. You just admitted that Biden spent more than Trump. What do you mean? What proof do I need when you admit it?
Well, so you have to look at future spending as well, approved future spending.
Okay, we did, and those numbers took into account how much the total deficit went up under other
and
Biden was worse,
right? And
Biden was way worse. That's not true. Biden was worse.
Wait, excuse me.
Want to read the numbers again? When Trump came into office, the total debt was, let's see.
Why are you back to total debt? Why are you not looking at gross federal debt now? Now you're back to total debt?
It has gross federal debt would have to take into revenue, which you admit you're incapable of predicting.
The gross federal debt grew by approximately 4.7 trillion. Right?
The total debt went up more under Joe Biden than Donald Trump.
We already did this part. We can move on to the next thing.
You don't even know. Okay, next part. You're saying you definitively claimed. Now, you'll say I didn't say this, so I'll ask you again. Did you claim that real wage growth was up under Joe Biden?
I said monthly. Average wage growth was up according to the CFRB. If you have a better source of that, I'll gladly look at it.
Just to be clear, now you added the term monthly, fine, but that would mean on average.
No, that's what I said the very first time, Rob.
Okay, so that would mean on average, if it average was up every month, then in total it had to be up, correct?
No, not necessarily.
Okay, can you explain to me how the average monthly wage growth was up, but totally it was down? Can you explain how that works?
Yeah, it would depend on how you pull the number, right? So if you pull the number, if you take the total amount that it rose and you divide it by the months that they were in office, that would work. But if you said like in January it rose 0.24, in February it rose 0.3, and you had some down months, you could get a different number there. I think the most accurate number is average monthly gain.
Okay, why wouldn't we look at the total real wage growth because what you seem, correct me if I'm wrong, you're like, well, if the question was on average, were there more months that it increased than it decreased? That's what you're suggesting?
Yeah, I think that it's important with both of these presidents because both of these presidents had COVID, which are significant outliers. COVID skewed both of their numbers. And I don't think that it's an accurate depiction of their policies when you factor in COVID. So that's why I like looking at it month by month rather than in totality for both of them.
It would be irrelevant to the point that you're trying to make, right?
What point am I trying to make?
So what you're suggesting is we should literally, the number of how much real wage growth increased or decreased is irrelevant under their term. Mm-hmm. What matters is how many months it went up versus how many months it went down.
Yep.
Okay. I think that's an erroneous standard. Nonetheless, I'll enjoy you showing me proof that it went up more months than down. Go ahead.
It's same place. You can go check it out. I didn't know you were going to ask for a source for literally everything.
Link it again.
It's the same website.
I am guessing that it won't say that. I'm guessing that it's not going to say that. Just to be clear, before we get to this, you're claiming that what this is going to say is that real wage growth went up more months than it went down.
I can pull it up for you.
Sure.
Are we going to do this all? Are we going to do this all night?
You're the one.
for
You're the
sources
one
all
making
night.
these claims. You're making claims that I think that almost every economist disagrees with. It is known that real wage growth decreased under Biden. What you said originally wasn't real wage growth. What you originally said was that wage growth was up. And I agree, wage growth was up. My estimation is that's probably what you're reading and you're not understanding it. Real wage growth takes in the amount that wages went
Where's your
up
numbers?
minus.
What's your source for that?
I'll get to them in a second. First,
Can
we're
you post
talking
it?
about. Yes, we will after you get to
Thank
posting
you.
yours. Real wage growth.
Okay. So
Real wage growth is real wage growth is how much wages went up minus inflation. And so inflation was higher than wage growth, which is why real wage growth was negative under the Biden term.
What happened during Biden's term? We had record inflation, right?
It's we can
That's
move
why you
on.
factor it out.
Listen,
That's why
I
you factor
understand.
it out.
I
You
get
had
the
inflation
moving.
that had nothing to do with Biden
Okay, hold on.
policies.
I'm
You had
gonna-
a
I'm
global.
gonna
Let me
stop
finish this
both of
answer,
you.
please.
Hold on, just a second. I'm starting to already get a little aggravated because I know you guys are getting aggravated and you're starting to chime in on each other a little more. So let's back it down, take a deep breath, put a bubble in your mouth if you need to. Back to you, RTP.
Yeah, look, if you're gonna I understand you want COVID in there to skew your numbers because that massive inflation number is gonna fuck with wages, and you know that. And maybe do you think that the inflation under Joe Biden was caused by Joe Biden, or do you think that was caused by like a global supply chain, businesses shutting down, or do you think that was just Joe Biden policies?
I think it was the policies of Joe Biden. I also think that you're moving the goalpost.
Which
I answered your question, and now I'll make my point. You can answer another question as a follow-up if you like. I sat here patiently. I sat here patiently as you made your point. You'll give me the same dignity. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
It was a yes or no question. And I'm still going. It's not your turn yet. Rob.
Okay.
Definitely not your turn.
Yeah, give him all the time he needs. Go ahead. He keeps moving the goalpost and shit. He needs the time. Go ahead. You stick in the hole every time he talks. Go for it.
Yeah, keep patting yourself on the back, Rob. If we're going to talk about the policies and you're going to say that all that inflation is on Joe Biden, I think it's up to you. You have to say, you have to explain to me why the whole world had inflation due to Joe Biden's policies. The whole world just had inflation at the same time as us, but it was a Joe Biden policy. When I ask you to explain what caused the inflation, you don't want to do that?
I have no problem talking about these conversations. However, I first want to articulate before we talk to the reasons that Biden's or Trump policy may have been what they were, we have to talk about what the accurate numbers are. You've misrepresented the numbers so far on the two issues that we've talked about. You're wrong. I want to see your source. I want to see your source. You said that you were going to provide a source that showed that real wage growth was up more months than it was down. That was the initial number. You said something like 2.something%.
It wasn't. No.
Then what was that number?
You're changing the claim.
No, you're the one. You made an initial claim. You said in your opening statement, wage growth was up more under Trump.
0.24% under Trump, average monthly gain under Biden, 0.29%.
And that number, I said, no, we're not looking at wage growth. It's more important to look at real wage growth. And you said this is real wage growth. I said, prove it. I don't think that's true. Then you moved the goalpost. Then you moved the goalpost and you said, oh, no. Actually, what I'm just talking about on average, there were more months than it went up than down, which isn't how anyone would say that it's average. I'm not reframing the argument. I'm accurately articulating what you said. You hold up a sign every time that you've been shown to be incorrect, and you're actually the one who's moving the goalpost and reframing the argument yourself. Bring up the source. Let's see it.
So
bring up the source.
I'm can I get a sentence out at some point, Rob? Or are you just going to keep spazzing? The reason I don't think that we should factor in inflation, the COVID inflation, is because you know that this is the only way your numbers hold up. You know this. You're not this stupid. You know that the inflation is why wage growth looks worse under Biden, and you can't articulate that was a Biden policy. That's why I factored out COVID for Trump and Biden. That's the best way to look at it. If you don't want to look at it honestly, if we can't come to an agreement that the best way to compare these two presidents honestly is to factor out COVID, then I don't know what we're doing here. And maybe this is the reason that you struggle to get debates, Rob.
The reason I struggle to get debates is
because you always win, right?
The reason that I struggle to get debates is because it's hard to find people that argue in good faith. Now, what most people would do is they would actually.
All right, stop. Both of you, we already had this whole freaking conversation backstage. We did. And I know we all agreed to move forward with a good discussion. Stop it. Rob, get back to your point.
Thank you. The reason that I may struggle to get debates is because people don't want to debate if they're incapable of doing it in good faith, and it seems that seems to be the case more often than not. You made claims of what these numbers are. You can't back up what those numbers are. I was correct. You were incorrect. And now what you want to do is say, yeah, but there's a reason for that. I'm more than happy to discuss the reasons for it once you admit yet again that I was correct, that real wage growth was down over the Biden presidency and that it was up under Trump's presidency.
I'm going to once again say that that's not my argument. I'm arguing that the way you're viewing the data is a silly way to view. I didn't move the goalposts. I'm saying that the way you're looking at the data, including inflation from COVID, is stupid. And the reason you want to do that is because you know what happens to the numbers when you factor out COVID inflation. You know it doesn't look good for Trump. That's why you desperately want to cling to this number.
Okay,
what happens to that number when you factor it out, Rob?
When
do the numbers get better or worse for Trump?
I'll answer that in 1 second. So I'll say, it's clear that he can't defend that he was inaccurate with the numbers. I'm willing to move on once more. So far on 2 numbers that you can see that he was incorrect. This is someone who claims to pride himself on the truth, and looking at data, it's clear that he's incapable of doing that. Now, we'll talk now that I'm correct about the data, and actually real wage growth was up under Trump. It continues to be up under Trump in this term as it was in the first term, and it was down under the Harris-Biden administration. How would we even begin to determine how we could factor out COVID, for example, in the Biden administration? What years should we look at that COVID didn't affect it, that we could say, okay, that's the real wage growth that we should look at?
I think when you start with when you had the massive disruption from supply chain, which is going to be about the time we started seeing massive lockdowns, first overseas and then here. And then you're going to go through, I don't remember when Biden declared the emergency over, but essentially when we got rid of the restrictions on importing through, and then we had to catch up after that. So you're talking about like mid-2022?
Mid-2022. So you're saying if we look at the data from mid-2022 until, and go year to year for that, we'll see that real wage growth was better than Trump. If we're factoring out COVID year of Trump as well.
I don't know. I haven't pulled that because that's not the data that I pulled.
Okay, again, but that's the data that you want.
Average monthly wage gain. No, it's not. I'm using average monthly wage gain, which is from the CBO. This comes from the U.S. Bureau of Labor and Statistics. If you want to go look up average hourly earnings and wage growth data, and then you take out the COVID years, you can do all this stuff yourself. I didn't know I was going to have to make a graph. I had no idea.
And it's nothing to do with making a graph. And what we're seeing is you're conflating numbers yet again. Now you've moved back from real wage growth back to wage growth. Yes, no one disputes if you massively inflate the monetary supply that wages will inherently grow up. The question is, what is your purchasing power? For example, if I get a raise one year of 25 cents and normally I get a 10-cent raise, that might seem acceptable. Like, wow, that's better than normal. But if the prices of all of my living expenses increase 30%, then that extra 15 cents in my wage growth will be irrelevant. In fact, wage growth almost always goes up. I would say that that's generally the way things go. So I don't know why that number is a number that we should look at as opposed to real wage growth. And you keep going back to just regular wage growth. Why would we not look at wage growth minus inflation?
I didn't mind. I looked at real wage growth, just so you know. And if I didn't just barely say real wage growth, like I meant real wage. But the thing, once again, Rob, you are factoring in inflation. The very thing you just described. The thing where like inflation, if prices go up above what you're making, then you don't really have wage growth, right? It's measuring the value of your dollar. And when we had inflation at 9% due to COVID, you want to keep that number in because that's the only way statistically that you can back up wage growth with Trump. If you factor that out, you know what happens to your numbers. You know they're not good.
Again, we're trying dishonest. I mean, and it's incredible. Like what I'm trying to do is I'm like, okay, let's together figure out how we would factor that out, right? And so what we would do is we'd find a starting point where we could look at Biden and say, okay, here's the real wage growth under Biden. You say, I said real wage growth. You didn't. You keep pivoting back to just regular wage growth. Okay, can you define what real wage growth is? I don't think you can.
Yeah, real wage growth is it's your wages and then it factors in inflation. So it's more like purchasing power.
Okay, so then you're saying the question I asked you then was, real wage growth, if we start in 2022 and we look, you're suggesting that it was better under Biden than it was under Trump. You keep saying it over and over. If we factor out the COVID inflation, you'll see that the numbers are terrible for Trump. And then when I ask you specifically, okay, then let's look at that data set, which I haven't looked up. But if we look at it, And you're like, nah, I haven't looked at it. I don't really care. It's not important. You could look at it some other time. But this seems to be the crux of your argument.
I'm giving you the source. I don't remember the exact date ranges that they took out for COVID. That's the only part I'm unsure of. And in order to get that number, I would have to go back into the report and read it again. I think that the Bureau of Labor and Statistics, I think that's a solid source. I think that you and I are saying the same thing. The only disagreement that you and I have right now is whether or not we should factor in the 9% inflation from Biden's term, and we should call that, we should blame him. I've asked you again, Rob, have you ever done the numbers with factoring out COVID? Have you ever run those numbers before?
I'm trying to ask you specifically how we would do that. What point would we start looking at with Biden?
How the fuck is that an answer to what I just asked? I just asked you a very simple question. Have you done it? This is yes or no, and then you can answer. But have you ever factored out the inflation and looked at the wages, Rob?
Yes.
Okay, what's the difference then?
It's worse under Biden.
It's worse. It's just, what's the numbers?
I don't know. Look it up. You can find it yourself.
Now I need you to give me those numbers. Now you've done it, and you said it's still worse under Biden.
Yes.
Where are you getting those numbers from? Because my numbers say that it's better under Biden, and I'm using the Bureau of Labor and Statistics. What are you using?
You can't even make these comparisons, and I'll tell you why, right? Because when I said, okay, where would we look? What time frame would we start to look? When you say, have you factored it out? Have you factored it out? I have to ask you, where would you start to factor it out? How would we do that? You can't give me an answer. And now you're saying, now you're saying, oh, I've already done it. I looked and it's better for Biden. Okay, so the data that you're looking at right now, you're looking at data right now, is what you're telling me. And you just said, I gave you the data. It says it's better under Biden.
Yeah, I said it's from
Bureau of Labor and Statistics. Okay, so what date did you start at looking at that? What date?
Brother, listen. This was a report. It was not, I did not pull the report. This was an analysis done by, I think in conjunction with the Yale Budget Lab. And they pulled, I don't know exact dates, what they pulled from. We could find that, but it still doesn't change the fact that you just made a claim, which now you won't defend. Now you're going to pivot back to me. Why is it, Rob, that you, in the affirmative position, you can't justify anything that you say? You haven't validated a single claim. And when you just said that when you factor out inflation, the numbers are still better for Trump, and I ask you where you get those numbers, you say, I don't know.
Okay, so we'll look at it. The reason I said I don't know is because it's intuitive that we need to know where you want to start from. So what I just did for you, as you were sort of moving, please let me finish. What I just did for you, because you'll be slimy about this and you won't tell me what dates we should look at, I looked at the real wage growths under Joe Biden each year. All right? So you tell me when we could start counting. It looks like real wage growth from January 2021 to December 2021 was negative 1.2%. Should we use that year?
No.
Okay. From January 2022 to December 2022, it looks like real wage growth was a negative 2.9%. Should we use that year?
No.
From January 2023 to December 2023, it looks like real wage growth was 0.4%. Should we use that year?
What was inflation during that time?
Inflation average 4.1.
No.
So we shouldn't use that. Okay, from January 2024 to December 2024, it looks like real wage growth was 1.1%. Should we use that year?
What was inflation at?
It was at 6.3%.
No.
So we can't use any of the 4 years under Joe Biden to determine what his numbers would be.
Wait, inflation was 6% the entire
last year?
No,
it wasn't. I'll be honest with you what it said. Yeah, I'll be honest. I misread it. Right, 6% was the month before. I'm sorry. Inflation was 2.9. But even, I just want to be clear.
So then, yeah, you could fact, yeah.
Okay, so I just want to be clear. When you thought it was 6%, your argument was we could not use, if inflation was high under Biden, we could never use those numbers no matter what. That's your argument.
Unless, Rob, you can explain to me how Joe Biden policies led to that inflation.
What I'm saying is, you asked me to differentiate. Right? You said we can't look at the COVID years. We can't look at those. I said, what year should we start at? You said maybe somewhere in mid-2022. That's what you said. Then when I went through the numbers and it turned out, whoops, those numbers weren't very good. You did exactly what I knew you would do. And you moved the goalpost and you said, no, we can't count that year either. We can't count that year. That's what you did. I don't give a shit about your sign. Do you have an argument or not?
I just would like what's weird is that every time I make it. Oh, go ahead.
I just wanted to say I do find, like, if we're going to make an equation, we have to be agreeable what the variables are that we're putting in. And I think I could be wrong, but to my understanding, that's what Rob's trying to do, is to formulate the equation that you're utilizing to get to the answer. but you're both using different variables in the equation. Is
Yeah,
that
look,
right?
Yes, in order for me to accept wage growth numbers, you have to be able to tell me that inflation was caused by Joe Biden. When you asked me when the pandemic ended, when they pulled the numbers, I said, I don't know. I think when we started shutting it down was about mid-2022, and then however long it took for inflation to catch up, to be back to a normal rate. Right? Unless you can show me what Joe Biden did to cause that inflation, then we can have the discussion. But I'm looking at the whole world the whole world's having the same problem, and you want me to believe that's a Joe Biden problem.
So I'm just going to mention this. And so even if we take the best, so cumulatively, real wage growth under Biden was down about 1.3 to 1.5%. Under Trump, in totality, it was up, 1.4%. So in all 4 of his years, it actually surpassed the best year of Joe Biden, when we would say COVID had the least. And if we take out Trump's last year, the COVID year, real wage growth for Trump was 4.2%. Absolutely shellacking.
And you're pulling these numbers from where?
That number, the specific 4.2, is from economicsense.com.
Where are they getting their numbers from?
They are getting them from the Atlanta Fed, I believe, is the numbers that they're getting from it. The wage growth tracker of the Atlanta Fed, and overall CPI from the Bureau of Labels and Statistics.
I mean, when I look over, when I'm over on Fred, these numbers don't match up very well.
Okay, so give me the numbers you're getting from Fred.
You see declining wages from Q3 of 2020 to Q2 of 2023. You see growth through Q4, another dip in Q2, and then you see wage growth from Q2 of 2024 virtually until now.
Okay, so what I'm asking is, you're looking at a graph, obviously. So what are the specific numbers from those graphs? Because what you just said adds up to what I'm saying. That yes, you saw massive declines under Biden, and then it sort of leveled out and it never got that high, and that it was going way up under Trump until the pandemic, and now it's going up much higher than it was under Biden again.
It wasn't going way up under Trump. Under
4.2%.
So what you saw in 2019, where you saw that big spike in wages, what you saw is a lot of people like low paying jobs. A lot of those fell off because of the COVID pandemic. So you saw a massive spike from Q3 of 2019 all the way through Q3 of 2020. There was a massive spike, and that was due to people like a workforce, low salaried workforce being removed from the market. That's the only time you really see any explosive growth.
I disagree. The numbers I'm looking at show that's not the case, so I'd like you to show your data. The numbers that I just provided.
Are you ever going to show yours at some point?
Yeah, sure. You want me to screen share it again?
I mean, yeah.
I could do that, no problem. But I would like to see your data. My data suggests that actually that 4th year of Trump's, when COVID hit, was when wage growth was worse for him, that it was 4.2 previous to that. And so that would have nothing to do with COVID if it was 4.2 previous to that. Correct? Previous to 2020, before COVID.
I believe, yeah. Q4, didn't COVID start in 2019 in Q4?
I believe that we started to see it really in 2020, correct?
I think 2019 is when, if I remember right, like November-ish.
No, I think that like there was 1 or 2 cases, but I don't think that would have been enough to affect. In fact, Fauci was saying in February of 2020 that the flu was going to be worse. So certainly we weren't seeing these dire numbers then.
Yeah, so March is when we said it was a full-on pandemic, but you started getting cases in November. So that would have been...
Okay, so I just want to be clear. Your argument is that in the 4th quarter of 2019, because there were a handful of potential COVID cases, that explains why Trump's real wage growth was really high.
No, I'm talking about Q1 of 2020, Q2 of 2020, and Q3 of 2020.
Okay, so real wage growth was up under those times.
Well, if you go look at the graph, you'll see there's a massive spike right there, right?
No, I don't think so. Again, I'd like to see your graph. The data I'm looking at doesn't suggest that. The data I'm looking at actually shows that it looks like the majority of the wage growth for Trump was actually previous to 2020. 2017, 2018, 2019. 2020
no, it grew every year.
Yeah, it did grow every year, but it was actually grew the least in 2020.
Okay,
is that what you're looking at?
No, and I'm looking at total. So you're looking at what? You're looking at this. I'm looking at total wages. You're looking at what?
let's see. It was up. Let's see. First 3 years, 1.4 annum under Trump. Let's see. Let's see. I don't know if this is talking about that specifically in 2020. So show the data you're looking at and we could look at it.
You're not going to show your data? This is
I don't think that this is talking about 2020. It's previous to 2020, the one I'm looking at right here.
I'm confused what we're arguing. All right, I just left that one. Let me go back. Real median. Here's median. Would median usual weekly real earnings be good for you? That's from the Fred?
Yes.
All right. I can screen share this.
Nonetheless, like it seems to me, the data I'm looking at shows 1.4 per annum per year under the first 3 years of Trump. That's higher than the highest year of Biden, even at the end of the pandemic. So even if it does show that the fourth year of real wage growth was actually higher under Trump, again, that's not going to help your argument.
Does it
you
show
can say,
the screen
well, the
that I'm
fourth year
sharing
was an
or no?
anomaly. What's that?
Can you see the screen that I'm sharing?
Yeah, I see it. I could pull it up.
This is where I'm talking about. So this is median usual real earnings. This is the spike that I'm talking about right here. This is the COVID spike.
Okay.
And then the COVID, and then the, oh shit, what did I just do? Oh shit.
Might have zoomed in or something on it.
Yeah, maybe. How do I go
on the
back?
graph. Usually for graphs, yeah. You just kind of have to
All right, well, we can still look there. And then here's the crash. And then it levels out about, let's say there. And then you have wage growth again. But again, all of this is kept hampered down. If we're talking about the rate of growth, like this is not significantly different. If you cut out this peak and you pick up here, and that's even I don't know what inflation was here, but if we pick up there at 362 and here at 366, or even if we want to bottom out at 365, that rate of growth looks similar to me. All of this wage growth stuff that you want to factor in is due to the pandemic. And that's all
I
I'm
disagree.
saying,
I disagree. I don't think that you could say year 4 we're still looking at due to the pandemic and it's not because of the policies of Joe Biden. I think that's absurd.
What policies then? What policies led to that?
For example, Joe Biden's policies of an open border, Joe Biden's policies of lockdown strategy.
Just one at a time, please. Because remember, we're not going to gish gallop. So let's talk about the open borders policy. How did the open borders policy drive real wages down? Inflation. Excuse me.
It brought real wages down by bringing in competition for labor.
And you would back that up. Where are you getting this data?
This is the laws of supply and demand. If there are more workers, then wages decrease.
If there are more workers, then wages
Correct.
decrease.
Yes.
Okay.
You disagree?
Well, look, I think that, yeah, it's potentially you could have less workers, wages increase, less workers, wages decrease. We had less workers during COVID when we had Remain in Mexico still in place. There were less workers, and we saw wages dropped, right?
Less workers and wages drop.
Yeah.
Well, there could be other reasons. You just said that wages went
the
real quick.
supply and-
Wait.
supply
You
and
just said
demand-
that real wage
Wait, hold
growth.
on, just real quick. So supply and demand isn't always like a universal principle then.
Well, no,
right?
it seems to more often than not be a principle, and you contradict yourself. You just said that wages went up when we had Remain in Mexico at the end of 2020.
No, I said they went down. I said
Your
they went
entire
up,
argument, you
and
pointed
then they
to that.
went down.
Your
up,
argument.
and then they went down. So it's both.
When
How
did
could
they
it be
go
both?
down? When did they start going down?
When was that? Q4 of 20 or Q1 of 2021, I think.
Okay, Q1 of 2021. So that would be Biden's first term.
Yeah.
So you mean when Biden on day 1 had an influx of people crossing the border because he proudly announced rescinding Remain in Mexico, you're using that as evidence that Remain in Mexico drove down wages?
I'm not making a claim at all. I'm actually just testing the logic there. You said that that if there are more people working, that you will have higher wages. Is that right?
That is what I said. No,
Okay,
I said
and
if you have more competition for labor, it drives down wages.
Okay. Well, I don't think that this graph proves that one way or the other. Would you agree with that?
I don't think that your graph's seeking to prove that. I think, however, the way that you interpreted it would show that you were exact opposite of what you were interpreting. Your argument was, well, remain in Mexico meant that there were less people for labor, and yet wages were going down. And then what you showed is your graph shows once remain in Mexico was removed, wages went from going up to going down.
But why did those wages go up, though?
The wages probably went up because the specific jobs that we were looking at for the people that we're counting as wages were jobs that tend to make more money. And so we probably got rid of, through calling people non-essential, a bunch of low-wage work.
People lost, low-wage workers lost their jobs, right?
Correct. Okay?
Right.
All right. So what's that have to do with remain in Mexico meant that wages... That was your claim. That was your claim.
So what you're trying to prove right now is that Joe Biden caused inflation.
What I'm saying is that, yes, that the policies of Joe Biden, the buck stops with him. The policies he's had of increasing the labor.
No. I need to know why. I need to understand.
Because the laws of supply and demand, yes or no? Would you,
how did that drive up
you could
inflation?
articulate afterwards.
So how did that drive up inflation?
Stop. Go ahead, Rob.
Yes or no, the laws of supply and demand, if there are more people applying for a job, does that increase or decrease the wages?
It can do both.
Explain how it could increase the wage.
Because wages are set by the employer.
Okay, so
it's not perfect.
Okay, so the employer, right? If there's only one person that applies for the job and they really need that, then that person's able to negotiate a better salary or a better wage because there's nowhere else for the employee to go, correct?
Maybe.
Okay, give me the circumstance when that's not the case.
When the employer says no.
Okay, the employee says no. Is that normally how businesses would work?
I've never once went into a job interview where I was able to negotiate my salary. Never once.
I think that this is nonsensical. What you're doing is saying that there could be some sort of exceptions to the rule. But would you agree that overwhelmingly that if you have more of a supply of something, that decreases the demand?
If you have more of a supply,
Correct.
Yeah. If people want it.
Okay. Do people want labor?
You could have a supply. Well, I don't know. Because we have people that are unemployed. We also have 10 million jobs that are sitting there unfilled. I don't know. I'm confused.
Okay, I'll just say that with this whole conversation, I'll just say this. It's clear that wage growth was higher in Trump's second term than it was. It was clear that real wage growth was higher under Trump's second term than it was under even the best years of Harris Biden. It's clear that Trump's real wage growth was better the entirety of Trump's first term than it was under Biden Harris, which is a reason economically to prefer. The Biden administration, along with Kamala Harris, gaslit people that the economy was great. It wasn't. People were struggling, and that's one of the primary reasons that they voted for Trump.
Great. Now, how did Joe Biden raise inflation?
Because he massively imported a bunch of people, which drove down.
And how did that drive up inflation?
Increases the supply of workers, which lowers their wage.
Do you have any evidence to back that up?
Yes, the law of supply and demand. Second,
the law of supply and demand is not a sufficient answer for me. I'm going to need some data on this, Rob.
Yeah, that's the data that we could see. Study after study shows that when you increase the amount of labor, pretty much every study that's ever been done on economics shows that when you increase the supply of labor.
COVID?
Okay, why would COVID be? Why would COVID all of a sudden take away the laws of supply and demand?
Because what you need to do, Rob, is you need to explain how the whole fucking world had global inflation, but somehow it was Joe Biden's fault here. And so far, what you've come up with is the law of supply and demand. And I'm asking just for some data.
Okay, so what I started to do was talk about the policies that Biden issued that would have lowered real wage growth. You demanded that I stop at the first one, which I did. Now that I've successfully showed you that that's a logic of supply and demand, I'll move on to the second, which was the massive spending that was done under Joe Biden, and that the Democrats, I'll admit that Trump's responsible for some of this in his first term, as is Republicans, but Democrats certainly wanted to spend more and embrace more lockdowns. Those sort of things are what led to supply chain crushes and our economy stagnated, as people like me predicted. I'm sure that you cheered on lockdowns. I was against it because I said that this is going to cause massive inflation and supply chain crushes, which it did, and it was worse under Joe Biden.
There's that straw man position to make yours seem sane. I would like to once again point out you have shown no evidence that that for some reason our inflation was different than everybody else's. That our inflation. Now, I would grant you that stimulus does raise inflation. I would grant you that, and I would say that both presidents were doing that, and I would also say that you'd be hard pressed to convince me that Trump wasn't going to offer stimulus those other two times as well. But what we also see is that recovery drove down inflation eventually, and we got it back on track, right?
Now, so I find it funny that you say.
Why wouldn't we say that those were deflationary policies?
Well,
if they
I don't understand.
Drove inflation down.
I don't understand why you ask a question, then immediately start talking again before I get a chance. So
you don't
interrupt
wait.
me.
Because you don't wait. You just got to wait a second.
So you ask a question, then I wait to make sure that you're not going to further.
About that one.
I mean,
RTP, I am agreeable with Rob on that because you'll ask and then he'll start to answer it, and then you're like, and then.
What I do
ahead,
is,
Rob.
I'll say it and then I'll reframe it so that you don't. So it's not like you don't have to remember everything I said. It's just illustrating that main point.
Can you hold up that sign that says reframing the question? Can you hold that one up for yourself? Go ahead. I'll wait for you.
It's reframe the argument, but I didn't reframe my own argument.
Thanks so much.
The question, and this says argument.
All right.
Okay, thanks so much.
Hold on, and I'll say it this way, RDP. You're assuming he doesn't hear the question in what you're saying, and then you're taking more time to repeat that and reframe it. So let's try not to do that because Rob, I'm sure, is comprehensive enough to pick up what you're putting down. Rob,
I don't think so, Sarah. He is every time I say something, he fucks it up. So I'm trying to be very clear with my words so that I don't have to hold up this goddamn sign.
And then we come back for clarification
if
it's needed. We come back for clarification if it's needed. All right, go ahead, Rob.
Okay, so these lockdown policies and the massive stimulus policies of Joe Biden, first off, when you say, why wouldn't we consider them deflationary? Again, it's very interesting when we talk about the record of Joe Biden and the massive inflation, you're like, we can't count any of that. It was all outside of his scope. Even in year 4, we have to say that was because of COVID. But we can assume that his policies made inflation worse than they otherwise would have been, which is a nonsensical argument. What we could see is when it comes to the rest of the world, the reason that there was inflation in the rest of the world is because they also embraced these terrible policies, such as the lockdown policies and massive stimulus. And it's even worse for those countries because the United States is the world reserve currency, which means that if the US dollar is devalued, it doesn't just cause inflation in the United States because this is the reserve currency. That means it would also cause inflation around the world. So a country, for example, like Germany would not only have to rely on the US being the reserve currency and the inflation that comes from devaluing the US dollar, but then also devaluing of their currency on top of that. So that's why that we saw inflation around the rest of the world that was commiserate to what was happening in the United States, but it's still on balance worse in the United States because we had the advantage during the Biden presidency of being the world reserve currency.
Great. So when we did the Inflation Reduction Act and it brought inflation down, you're saying that it's not right.
When was the Inflation Reduction Act?
I can look when it was passed. Do you know off the top of your head?
I thought they named these differently. My guess would be 2021.
2022. So it went into effect 2023 and inflation went down?
Okay. When was it passed in 2022, if you don't mind me asking?
I don't have the date on it. If anybody else has it on there.
Okay. Let me see if I can find this.
I think what I'm trying to nail down here is I would love a specific outside of like generically you just saying what you think. I think if you were being honest right now, Rob, what you would say is you're not really sure which policies drove up inflation and that you just have like this general understanding of supply side economics and you think that everything works inside of a supply side economics perfectly and that's a sufficient argument. I'm just saying that's not a sufficient argument. This entire thing, like in order for you to justify the wage differences between Trump and Biden, you've got to explain this. You've got to explain inflation and you're not doing a very good job with it.
I am explaining it. I have explained how stimulus and lockdowns that were done more by the Democrats and Joe Biden are actually worse for causing these sort of things to occur. I think that what you're seeing is that you can't defend the record of Kamala Harris and Joe Biden.
I don't have to.
And you do when we're saying who would have been better. We already went through this at the beginning. And so when we're comparing Donald Trump to a Harris presidency, when she admitted I would have done nothing different than Joe Biden, it's reasonable to extrapolate that her economic policies would have been the same. And what you want to do is give an excuse to all of Joe Biden's policies. I'm saying that we could see that real wage growth is up better than any time it was under the Biden administration in Trump's second administration. And that's something to cheer for. That's more important than things like GDP or wage growth that doesn't include inflation. And so people's standard of living is marginally increasing. That's the argument I'm making. I think that I'm clearly winning the economic argument. I have like 10 other arguments to get to if you'd like to get to other arguments, but you're going to say Trump doesn't matter to any of those, which is funny. Well, this is the one area of disagreement you had, and I don't think you're doing so well.
Well, it's ironic that you're now you're giving Trump now credit for the real wage growth now. None of his policies are in place. We're still under the policies of Joe Biden for this real wage growth under Trump. But you're ready to give Trump credit for the real wage growth in these 6 months when clearly his policies haven't gone into effect yet. So that's him, right? He gets the credit for Joe Biden's wage growth right now. Joe Biden takes all the heat for COVID. And Trump doesn't have to take any heat for COVID. If you could just take his dick out of your mouth for 12 seconds and look at something from a 50,000-foot view and look down and say, oh, are there extenuating circumstances? Sometimes, but you don't do that. You just you guys all want to circle jerk Donald Trump. I don't think that you have made a compelling argument at all that he's a better president. The only way you could do it is if you factor in a fucking global pandemic. And even then, I think you're struggling. Anybody watching this is going to have a hard time coming up here, Rob, and repeating what you're saying. They're not going to be able to repeat your argument. It's nonsensical.
Someone sent me a clip of this. I don't normally consume your content, but is it true that the other day you were complaining about the prices of things like steaks and other things like that at your local grocers?
No, what I was talking about was the tariffs, the willy-nilly tariffs that are slapped on places like Brazil that drive up the prices of beef.
Oh, so what you were saying is when you were complaining about the prices, you're saying that specifically the negatives that you see in the economy right now is Trump's fault, but the positives are Biden's fault? That's your argument?
No, I didn't make the argument that the positives were Biden. You made those arguments. But I would say, and that's a silly fucking thing to say.
What are you talking about? I never said that.
Because the reason that the price of beef went up is because of fucking tariffs. Now, I asked you, why did inflation go up? And you're like, supply side economics. And you can't really substantiate that. There is a direct correlation between the price of beef and the world's dumbest tariffs. A direct correlation.
Okay, so I think that it's evident for everyone to see.
By the way, your fans watch my show. I appreciate them.
I mean, someone has to, I guess. But it's evident for everyone to see.
Have you compared our views on YouTube? You took a shot at me at the beginning of this. Do you know that I have more subs than you and I get about 20x your views, Rob?
I said backstage to leave the personal shit off my screen and stay off
Sarah,
topic.
he opened with that.
On topic.
Sarah,
I'm going to tell you both.
He opened with that. This is getting a little old, honestly, Sarah. You have never once corrected anybody on your side that I've debated with. Rob has taken personal shot after personal shot. He just went back to this. I'm allowed to take the same personal shots.
That's fine. Wait, I'm more than happy.
Are you talking about the steak thing?
I'm more than happy.
I'm talking about the TikTok thing. He, in his opening statement, he basically said, I'm only on TikTok. First of all, I'm never on TikTok. And now he's saying somebody's got to watch your show. My views compared to yours, Rob, he literally insulted me and said, someone's got to watch your show. I'm not entitled to be like, oh, I'm sorry, Rob. Your last video got 1,000 views and mine got 80,000.
All right.
Okay,
we can just shut down and everybody can just go home, or we can just get back to the fucking point.
If I may, I'm happy once we're done with this conversation before we get to open panel to talk about his botted views. I don't have a problem with that. We could do that. I have no problem doing that. But for now we'll talk about
Sarah. That's not an insult.
We'll talk about the subject at hand. That's fine. I'm sorry that it hurt your feelings so much. Maybe you need a sign to remind yourself to
listen, gentlemen. When I say something, I mean it to everyone on screen. So RTP, even though you were the last one to talk, saying, talking shit, when I say it, that means both of you are in trouble. Okay. You always complain, well, you did this with this person and not that this with that. No, when I talk, I'm speaking to everyone and shots are fired. End of story. Now we can sit here and I can act like your mama and put you in timeout and yada, 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 or we can actually get back to the fucking debate.
Okay. So I'm happy to talk about that at the end though. No problem at all. So we could see that anyone who's paying attention could see anytime that I'll bring up positive things that are happening under Trump's economic, he'll say, that's just because of Biden. Then he makes this absurd claim that I'm the one who said that the positives under Trump was because of Biden. That's not true at all. And so you can see that actually what ends up happening is that he's going to pick and choose and say, the things that are bad with the economy right now, it's not Biden's economy anymore. The tariffs have been effective. We could see massive trade deals. That's another difference that we've seen. That's brought in huge amounts of investment. let's see, the total that I'm looking on that is, it looks like the numbers are showing best estimates. Trump's team's claimed 8 trillion. Best estimates are showing, though, that it's probably 4.3 to 5.5 trillion dollars in just investment guarantees alone from companies and countries as a result of Trump's tariff strategy. In addition to that, we could see that there's revenue that's coming in from those tariffs, and it's encouraging more manufacturing and better trade deals in general with countries like Japan, European Union, Indonesia, and others. So those are all positive things that are occurring to this, in addition to the rest of the positive economic developments that we're talking about here, that he hand waves away and say, trust me, bro, it's because of Biden.
What guaranteed investments do we have?
So, for example, you had Stargate, Apple, NVIDIA, TSMC. You had places like the UAE, Japan, China that have all agreed. I believe the EU trade deal talks specifically about guaranteed to invest in, or to spend $500 billion, I think, alone in energy that they're going to purchase from the United States and other things of this nature.
How do we collect on that guarantee?
I guess the guarantee is that they've written that into the actual negotiations that they've signed. Yes.
You've seen that negotiation signed?
No, I guess I haven't read the entirety of the negotiation.
So you're aware that that's private money that they're talking about, right?
What would that matter? That would still be good. Right?
How would they guarantee $500 billion in private investment into the United States?
Because
how would the EU do that?
The EU, how would the United States guarantee that?
No, how would the EU guarantee that?
The EU would have to fall through on what they signed via the treaty, or the United States would rescind it. Then they'll increase tariffs again.
Okay, so we don't have a guarantee, right?
No, we do have a guarantee. They've claimed that they guaranteed it.
You can't.
Again, the numbers I'm looking at is,
you can't guarantee, Rob. You can't guarantee private money.
It's not just private money. There's two pools of money.
I'd like to respond. You made a bunch of points right there. I'd like to respond to this one specifically. Rob, we have 7 trade deals. He's completed 7 trade deals, and in almost every one of them, we're paying more tariffs than we were before. This is a tax on American consumers. Donald Trump has raised taxes on American consumers, and the craziest part about it is this dumb bitch doesn't seem to know what a tariff is. He literally shows up on TV every day and says other countries pay it. And then he forces all the other dumb bitches that follow him to say the same dumb thing. Just for clarity, Rob, do other countries pay tariffs? And I'm not saying can they absorb the cost of tariffs. I'm saying who writes the check?
The person that's going to write the check would be the person that is importing.
Okay. Do you also accept that Donald Trump doesn't seem to know that, or at the very least is lying about it?
No, I think that he does know, and what he's talking about is that it'll be absorbed and the United States will make more money in other ways. That's what he's talking about specifically. You mentioned there cleverly, yes, some of them could absorb. The difference is between Kamala Harris and Joe Biden type policies that would just massively increase taxes on people that are creating jobs in the United States. At least with the tariff, the burden's shared on multiple people. So it would be shared on the person that is exporting from a foreign country. It would be shared on the business that is importing that. And then there could be some level of that that's shared to the consumer. However, we've seen that the inflation numbers haven't borne out, even with these tariffs. My understanding of this was that I predicted that there would be significant short-term pain that we would see as a result of Trump's tariff strategy, but the status quo is not sustainable because the manufacturing class in this country, particularly blue-collar people in the Rust Belt, were becoming more and more disheveled and losing these opportunities, and we were relying on places like China for things that are important for our national security. And so Trump realized that our negotiating leverage will never be better than it is right now and decided to negotiate these trade deals, and he's getting deals that people are shocked by how good they are. Even people like on places like CNBC that traditionally wouldn't favor him are admitting that this EU trade deal was amazing. And we still haven't seen massive inflation or anything of that nature.
Yeah, so 2 responses to that. I think saying I've watched CNBC, I've covered it. I don't know who over at CNBC is saying it's an amazing trade deal. I think that they kind of like it. The Yale Budget Lab did an analysis of Trump tariffs, and this is going to cost middle-class consumers on average $5,000 a year. This is a tax increase on the middle class, and this pace means that by the end of Trump's term, middle-class Americans are going to lose $20,000 in purchasing power. Now, you mentioned inflation, and I think it's fucking brilliant that you brought that up. I think you were right, by the way, when you said that these tariffs would lead to short-term results. And I think that actually that logic was unflawed. if Trump was going to use these tariffs momentarily to negotiate as a strategy, then yeah, it would be short-lived. But the reason that we haven't seen inflation is because Trump's a pussy and he keeps backing out and he never puts the tariffs in. He literally just backed out on China again today. But as we start to see some tariffs hitting, which we are seeing, we're starting to see a rise in pricing. We're starting to see it now. And this is going to come at the cost of middle-class consumers. So I just want to be clear, while Donald Trump says that his tax policies are for the middle class, they are the ones that are getting a $5,000 tax increase at a time they cannot afford it.
So one, inflation was far worse under Joe Biden, and none of the Democrats that are complaining about this seem to care. Second, their strategy of taxing more to people would have meant that those prices would have been passed down to middle-class consumers, as we could see happens all over the place. And third, these experts that you're talking about actually predicted that we would already start to see massive levels of inflation. Many of them were predicting we would see that by July. That didn't occur. The inflation numbers still that we've seen, the most recent ones, are still lower than on average of Joe Biden, and they're right about what we would expect in normal times. Now, it could be the case that we'll start to see some more inflationary pressures. In fact, I think if Jerome Powell lowers rates, we're more likely to see, which Trump wants to do, we're more likely to see inflation. However, I think that the status quo, which I'll ask you point blank at the end of this question, was not sustainable. We can't afford to rely on places like China for manufacturing that's so important, such as our personal protective equipment when it comes to viruses, ammunition, other things that if we ever get into conflict with China, we can't rely on them, and we can't continue to see the erosion of the manufacturing and middle class in this country. And so something radical needed to change, and I think that was good. Because it's bad for the people that enjoy those sorts of jobs, and we would rely on countries to the manufacturing that's necessary for our country to survive that we may be at war with someday.
Why is it necessary for our country to survive to onshore manufacturing?
Because two reasons. One, let's do them slow, one by one. Relying on China for things like steel, ammunition, etc., when they are our biggest geopolitical rival, means that we will be under their heel if we ever go to war. Your response?
My response is, why don't we just not go to war with them?
Okay, so what if they then decide to pressure us because they know we can't go to war with them? And we rely on them.
I don't think destroying our economy on the fear that one day China, who is not very aggressive, you look around the world, like China's not like us. They're not out there fighting a new war every fucking 12 minutes. China seems pretty restrained. I have real fears of China coming over here and starting a war with us. So I don't think the fear mongering of we have to reshore American manufacturing because maybe one day China will come get us is a compelling argument. We've survived pretty well with manufacturing going to China.
Okay, cool. I guess we could say the same with Russia. Let's just not go to war with Russia or any other country. It's a fool's gambit to suggest that our biggest geopolitical rival, that we should just say, as long as we never go war with them, they'll never pressure us, that we become totally reliant. I think that's a childish view that you have there. Second argument is,
I didn't say totally reliant. Don't reframe it. Don't lie when you reframe shit. I said we don't have to onshore all manufacturing.
Secondly,
totally
manufacturing.
Right? No, Rob, can we get on the same page real quick? Right?
No, I'm not interested.
I'm tired of the dishonest reframing. I said that we don't have to onshore American manufacturing, and you said rely totally. Can we at least be honest about the way that how dishonestly you frame everything?
No, what we'll do is I'll say that the way that this was framed initially was that we would rely on them like ammunition, steel, and things of that nature. Now, you didn't seem to dispute that. You said we don't have to onshore all manufacturing. That's a different claim. The only person that's been dishonest in their framing this entire debate's been you, who, including from your very first economic statistics that you suggested, we went through point by point how you were misleading people and what they said. You've continued to do so the entire debate. I'm tired of your whining and complaining to me because you have this thought in your head that I'm doing what it's actually you that's doing. Nonetheless, the manufacturing sector, we could see that there's been a hollowing out of the manufacturing sector in this country. And as that's happened, we've seen that there has been more of a wealth divide. The middle class is eroding in this country that you claim to care about, and bringing manufacturing back in real jobs as opposed to just jobs in the financial sector would be key in bringing back that middle class dream.
Yeah, this is Republican dipshittery at its finest. This is Ronald Reagan trickle-down economics, a failed fucking experiment for 50 years. You know when we started to see the massive increase in wealth inequality? When we introduced trickle-down economics. And you're a smart enough guy to know that if you draw a correlation between trickle-down economics and wealth inequality, it's a far better line than offshoring American manufacturing. Yes, sometimes they go together, because it turns out when we let rich people keep more of their money and we give them more access to our government and we allow them to lobby our government, then they want to make as much money as they possibly can. And so undoing trickle-down economics, going back to the progressive tax policies that built this country, that built the American working class that our parents and our grandparents grew up in, and they had I guess the good fortune to grow up during that time. We could go back to those progressive tax policies, but we can't, because Republicans are such cucky bitches to the 1% that you guys think if we tax these folks, then the whole world will collapse. It's trickle-down economics that's causing this wealth inequality, and you would be hard-pressed to make a compelling argument that the offshoring of American manufacturing is what has driven wealth inequality. That's insane, Rob.
I disagree with that. I do have a question to ask you, though.
And back it up.
Okay, I have a question to ask you. The companies that will have to pay, you said that it's the United States that'll pay that tax, correct? People in the United States. Can you explain who that would pay the tariffs?
Anybody who's importing something.
Okay, so those would be businesses. Is it traditionally poor people that import things, or wealthier people that own businesses?
Not poor. Not necessarily wealthy, but not poor.
Okay, so then my question to you is, if you say that those people that have to pay those import taxes will pass, in the form of tariffs, will pass them along to the consumers, then why, if instead we just tax them outright without a tariff, wouldn't they also pass that along to the consumer?
Tax who outright?
If you're saying that there are these wealthy business owners that are importing things that are going to be tariffed and they'll pass that cost on to the consumer, if instead of doing tariffs, we just massively increase their taxes, why wouldn't they also pass that on to the consumer?
Well, are you talking about income tax, or are you talking about the corporate tax?
Doesn't matter. Any tax whatsoever.
Well, income tax that's a silly thing, because the richest people in this country don't pay income tax. They mostly pay capital gains tax. Most of them don't take a large salary. The richest people in this country avoid taxes at all costs. So we're talking about, I wouldn't raise taxes on anybody whose income is less than $400,000 if I was in charge.
Okay, so how many people that didn't really answer my question? Those wealthy people.
What's the
now,
question?
The question was, if wealthy people now having to pay tariffs would pass that along to the consumer, then why wouldn't, if you increase people's taxes, wouldn't the people you're increasing pass it along to the consumer?
It'd be hard to show that it's just wealthy people that are like, I think that the people who are being hurt the most by this are not wealthy people. This is evidenced by, like, Tim Cook went and gave Donald Trump a really pretty iPhone, and Trump carved out an exception for him. You see Amazon gets exceptions carved out for them. Nike has exceptions. Google has exceptions. Apple has exceptions. Nvidia has exceptions. All the richest among us are the ones that are avoiding all of this. It's the middle class that's really suffering the most. And even if you want to talk about like total, like, we'd have to pull the numbers. I would guess that you're probably right that that rich people pay a higher percentage of this, but it's the mom and pop shops that are closing, that can't afford these kind of margins, that can't negotiate tiny margins and operate off 1 or 2%. Those are the people that are hurting.
Your argument is that how much more revenue do you think we need? Because you also would want a bunch of, and I think we could tie this into Kamala Harris as well. She would want a bunch of new spending programs. You say you would only tax people more that make over $400,000. How much more revenue does the United States need to do to end this trickle-down economics? Like, per year, what would you suggest?
Like, how much? Well, we just have to start reducing deficit spending. Like, we've got to get to at least revenue neutral.
Okay, so how much would that require per year if we don't create one more program?
I would have to do them. Are we doing with like compound interest? I'd have to do the math. I don't know if you've done the math on that.
I will just say this: you said you would only increase taxes on people that are making more than $400,000 a year. How much would you increase the taxes on those people?
I would take the capital gains tax to somewhere around like 25%, and I think you take the top corporate tax of 21 to 28%.
Okay, so how much money do you think that would raise?
And then back to 37%. I think I have some of those numbers written down here. Let me see.
How much money how much money would your tax policy that you're recommending, how much would that raise a year?
Yeah, I have this. So the CBO scored the 2025 budget, which was the one Harris was running on, saying it would reduce budget deficits by 1.4 trillion between 2025 and 2034, which is at the same time Trump is increasing deficits by $5 trillion. So it's about a difference of like $6 trillion, or no, $5 trillion.
It wouldn't matter if Trump's increasing it. Kamala Harris's plan, you said we would need to get to deficit zero. So if I believe this CBO, which I don't believe that. I think that you're probably misleading the data because that's probably let me finish. Is that comprehensive of the plans she wanted to add minus the tax revenue that she was putting in? And so then how much was she going to increase the tax burden according to that CBO plan?
Like receipts? Are you looking at total receipts?
Yes. Like, I don't know exactly the way they'd phrase it. I'm not going to claim to understand the exact language they would use. My question is, clearly Democrats like Kamala Harris, they wanted more social programs. And so the idea that they were going to spend more, but lower the deficit by $1.4 trillion, that would have to be a massive increase in the tax burden.
Yeah, it was so the Yale Budget Lab scored this. If you don't like the CBO, we can look at the Yale Budget Lab. They are a little more conservative. They scored $1 trillion in reductions, and the net deficit reduction results from $2.6 trillion in gross costs and $4 trillion in gross savings from the proposals within the 2025 proposal.
So they would spend $4 trillion in taxes. That was the argument, that they would raise revenues $4 trillion.
It's in gross savings, so it's essentially
Okay, so we're going to tax. We're going to raise an additional $4 trillion in taxes a year from just people that make over 400,000.
No, not just people that make. It's also corporations. It's the 400,000 is income tax, but you also have capital gains kicks in at 25%. I think was hers at $100 million. I think.
Okay, but I would assume that there's
so at
a lot of
million, you're going to get a tax increase. That's pretty fair.
Okay, so how many people would that be that are sharing this increased burden?
I don't know.
Like just people that make
from the Yale Budget Lab.
I mean, just the people that make over 400,000. I think there's where did I see this? 2.8 million. So 2.8 million people are going to contribute to 4 trillion. That's, if my math's correct, that would be about 1.6 million of taxes a year increased on these people.
Could be. I don't know. You can go look at the Yale.
And you don't think they would pass that on to working class people?
Well, there's also part of what Harris also want to do is control prices. But yeah, you potentially could have that passed along to customers.
Yes, sure. and a great argument. You're right. Forgive me, I forgot we're comparing Trump to Kamala. You're right. Harris did want to institute price controls, and we could see the failures of that all over the place.
Can you show me a place where grocery price controls failed? And not like it was profit control, right? So it was margins. It wasn't like you can't operate at a loss. It was saying your margins could be 10%. Can you show me places?
Yes, price. Can you show me a place they've worked?
Oh, you just made the claim that they wouldn't work. What are you saying?
Yes, they wouldn't. Every time we see these communist policies where we tell private businesses how much they're allowed to charge, we see a rich history of these sort of things.
You see how we do this?
In the Soviet Union, for example, they failed.
I asked you a question and you just throw it back at me. Why don't you answer that question, Rob?
Okay, I will show you evidence of when price controls failed.
For groceries, right? Because that's what we're talking about with Harris. And we're talking about margin control?
Right, the Bernie Sanders, I think bread lines are a good thing. Right, we get it.
It's another cute quip by you while you don't defend a fucking thing.
Let's see. World War II, Canada, 1939 to 1945. Strict price controls on groceries led to rationing and long lines. Black markets emerged. Food quality declined as retailers sold inferior goods at controlled prices. True inflation was likely 48 to 70%. United States, 70. Let me finish.
Wait, No, I need to ask that question because we have to make sure. What were they controlling? Were they controlling the price or the margin?
I don't know. You tell me.
Okay, it's significantly. It makes a difference, doesn't it, Rob? Because a margin doesn't allow you to operate at a loss. A price control, like a fixed price, you can have a loss there.
I will repeat. I think that it was a disaster there. We'll read more examples, and then I'll get to answering that. United States, 1971 to 74. Nixon's price and wage freeze aimed to control inflation because grocery shortages. Producers cut supply due to unprofitable prices, and consumers face empty shelves and gas lines. Venezuela.
You just said it. It's unprofitable prices. Kamala Harris, her proposal didn't give you unprofitable. It was allowed, or it stopped from price gouging. So you can't make a 600% markup. You're comparing things that didn't that aren't the same.
What we could see is when these price controls happen, although you could say, trust me, we will allow just profits. It would just be profits. It's impossible for the government to be that efficient to know exactly what they need to charge that would cut into their profits. And it ends up meaning that things will be unprofitable. That's the history of price controls.
No, Rob.
All right, what's the price gouging? Show me. So give me the groceries that were at 600%. Go ahead.
So the way that no, I'm just that was a hypothetical, Rob. What the price gouging was is it was saying you can't raise your price over a certain amount, right? Over your cost. So you can't go under cost. And cost, that's all in cost. So they're just saying, let's just say that you have bananas and there's a shortage on bananas, and you're like, oh, I know we're gonna have a shortage on bananas. So instead of $2 a pound, they're $12 a pound. And your cost didn't increase because we saw this during COVID. Specifically, you brought up like PPE. People were buying up in bulk PPE, and then they were selling it back at these massive markups. And that hurts our economy too. So this is a smart thing to do. If you don't want businesses to take advantage of people in the middle of a pandemic, you want to learn from that. Why is it not smart?
Just to be clear, as I said, that these things, even if you get in saying we're just not going to allow you to raise your profits, oftentimes what happens is it causes scarcity, which means that the government goes in, does more and more. The government
when you say often, give me an example of that.
Okay, let me give you some examples of that. World War II, Canada, 1939 to 1945. United States, please let me finish. United States, 1971 to 74. Venezuela, 2000s to 2010s. The Bengal famine in 1700s. When the government comes in and says you can only charge this much, it leads to a disaster. Nonetheless,
this is like Rob. This is pathetic even by your standards. I just told you that we're talking about margin controls, and you're talking about price controls. Where in your own answer, it specifically says that they were operating below profit, that they were below cost. That's not the same thing here, Rob. Just admit you don't know. Don't read the same dumb shit again. In the answer, it says that we're not talking about margins. It says we're talking about cost. Doesn't it, Rob?
So why don't you tell me an example of when these prices?
Rob?
I don't know. I would have to read exactly what was deemed to be done then. Maybe they tried to just say we're going to stop profits, but actually those price controls didn't take into account that they were inequipped to determine what the margins would be, and it led to people. That's right. And you've yet to provide one example of where it's worked. I'm at least providing you examples of price controls not working. Show me one example.
Of operating on like limiting the percentage that you can make?
Yes, on groceries.
On groceries? I don't know if anybody's ever done that.
Wait a minute. You said that I had to limit price control to groceries. That was the data that you were looking for. That's what you said. Now you're saying, well, no one's ever done it.
No, I said I don't know if they've ever done it. But the reason I brought that up is because I wanted to make sure we were talking about what her actual plan was. She wasn't talking about capping the price of everything. She was talking specifically about groceries. This isn't a principle that like I stand by. I'm saying that when I look at what happened during COVID and I looked at people who were gouging American consumers, I think that it makes perfect sense to add a control mechanism in there so that people don't gouge Americans in the middle of a crisis. I think that's just smart government. You don't think that's good government?
No, I don't think it's good government at all. I think that when we start to have these sort of price controls, that they create scarcity and lead things to spiral out of control. We could see the history of socialism doing this. Nonetheless, all of this is irrelevant to the fact that Kamala Harris's policies would have been a disaster. These sort of socialist policies would have caused all sorts of government intervention into the market that would have been a disaster. We can see right now policies like this in New Jersey have actually caused the price of electricity to increase threefold since they've instituted sort of socialist policies, determining what sort of electricity could be able to come. Again, I don't know if you think that you're making a point here. You're not doing very well in this debate anyways.
Kamala Harris doesn't run New Jersey. So by citing New Jersey policies, you are using New Jersey as a straw man for Kamala Harris. If you're going to cite Kamala Harris, cite her policy. But instead, you're just picking a state where there's something you don't like. Which policy is New Jersey doing that Kamala Harris proposed?
I was citing socialist policies like this and the unintended outcomes, but fine. I'll cite Kamala Harris's policy banning fracking in Pennsylvania.
She said she was against banning fracking.
No, she originally said she was for it. Then she said she never said it.
Her mind, and then she changed her mind. So I'm going to stick with her last answer, which is no.
Okay,
so you're going to stick with her first answer, right?
No, what I'm saying is that it's clear that she would embrace these socialist policies, and the only reason she backed off was because she know that people have more common sense than her and know that these policies would be a disaster.
Now we are straw manning hypothetical. Now Rob has gotten to the point of the debate where he has nothing of value left to say. So he's straw manning a position and calling Kamala Harris a fucking socialist, which is crazy because like she literally My biggest complaint with Biden and her is they brought in corporations, like they were in bed with the corporations. These were corporatists. To call Kamala Harris is a socialist makes me feel like you have no idea what socialism is. It means that you're doing the same thing that Republican pundits always do, Rob. You run to socialism because it's a security blanket for you. You know to your audience that if you scream socialism, they'll wet their pants and agree with you, but you don't have any real good arguments right now because you're just straw manning Kamala as a socialist.
Price controls are socialism. Next, we'll move on to the next topic, immigration. We could see that crossings are ridiculously down. In some cases, 97% down to under the Kamala Harris-Biden high points. Remember, Kamala Harris was said to be one of the people that was the key advisor to Trump or to Biden on the border. So the border is much more secure, and we've stopped seeing millions of people pouring in that are illegals because of that. That's obviously a good thing.
Do you think came in during the Biden administration?
Well, when it looks, we could look at the actual data from sort of immigration studies, Department of Homeland Security. There were on total encounters, the majority of which got in, I believe, was 10.3 million from February 2021 to January 2025. This includes 9.3 million apprehensions, which were typically illegal crossings, and about 1.2 million inadmissible migrants. Over 48 months, the average is 214,583 encounters per month.
So you understand that number you just cited means 1 million came in, right?
No, that's not true.
Okay, what's an encounter, Rob? How do we define an encounter?
An encounter is someone that crossed the border into the country that was met by Border Patrol, ICE, etc.
Anywhere within a 100-mile radius of the border, right?
Correct, yes.
And those people, it's any encounter. So these people could have been here. They could have crossed over. It could just be any encounter. It could be the same person 500 times, right?
Theoretically, it could be the same person 500 times. Right.
Okay, but when you just read those numbers, you cited encounters, and then you cited a number of apprehensions, and then there was a number right after that that was like 1.2 million. That's the number of illegal immigrants that came in. The rest of the people that came to our border were legal immigrants here on asylum claims.
It doesn't matter. The people that came here under asylum claims still show the problem with our open border. The fact that they were left in, the majority of them never were processed to be allowed to stay here from asylum. And it was a system that was being intentionally abused.
100% agree.
Yes, it was being intentionally abused. But that was the system. And so now those numbers have curtailed tremendously, and that is clearly a good thing for this country in a litany of reasons we could get into if you like.
Well, this is where we have a fundamental disagreement, I think. I'm guessing. Maybe we agree on this. I concede that Donald Trump's actions have led to less people coming to the border. I think that there's a lot of reasons for that. One is a strong presence. Two is that the humanitarian crises that were caused by COVID, those are mostly over. We've kind of stopped meddling, like Venezuela. A lot of that was our own fault, why we had a bunch of Venezuelans here. But I would also say that what Donald Trump has done will, if you like these policies, can be completely undone, because the thing I don't like about what he's doing is he's choosing to do it outside of Congress. Like, we're not changing our asylum laws. So if somebody comes across here now and they seek asylum, one of two things happens. They either are granted the asylum claim, or this administration goes against our own asylum laws. Those are the two options that we have. Either they're allowed to claim asylum, or this administration is unilaterally bypassing Congress to do kind of whatever the fuck they want. I agree it's effective. I don't like how we're doing it. I don't like the precedent that it sets. I don't like that we're ruling by executive order here.
I don't like the fact that Joe Biden, by fiat and rescinding executive orders, allowed these massive things to increase. And I also, it's not whataboutism. Are we not comparing the Kamala Harris and Joe Biden administration to the Trump administration? Is that not what we were doing? So your claim is, when I point out the failures of the Kamala Harris, Joe Biden administration and how they allowed these people in by rescinding executive orders, that's whataboutism, even though that's literally the topic of the debate. That's your claim?
No, the issue is that you never address what I say. You just literally say, you just go straight to whataboutism. It's literally like talking to like a random Republican word generator. Not once have you ever responded to a claim. And you did this the last time we debated. You literally walked away in the debate last time. You don't listen. You're not a very good active listener. So it's frustrating to talk to you and then just have you go straight to whataboutism. It would be nice to have like a conversation where you respond to what I say without like going whataboutism.
Right. Nonetheless, your complaints on these sort of things are relevant. It is the topic at hand. When it comes to sort of executive fiat being able to solve problems, as long as it's done within a legal scope, so far the courts have said that it is predominantly legal for him to have policies like Remain in Mexico. Yeah, I agree. It would be better if Democrats weren't actively cheering for open borders and would work with Republicans, some of them who actually want the open borders as well. It would be better for the legislator to do that. Nonetheless, that's not a reason to prefer Kamala Harris over Joe Biden.
Name one Democrat that advocated for open borders.
Yeah, the ones that were fine with the border under the Biden administration. Kamala Harris, Joe Biden.
What did she? And she advocated for it. How?
They said that the policies under the Biden administration of rescinding these executive orders and allowing tens of millions of people in were okay. That it was good. That the border was predominantly secure.
She was cheerleading open border policies.
Yeah, she was cheerleading the policies that effectively made our border basically open.
And by that you mean they were keeping our asylum laws as they were written, right?
They were rescinding executive orders and knowing that the asylum process,
frustrating, knowing Rob, because what you should
what's
do
frustrating,
is
what's frustrating
saying,
to you is I'm going to start doing the same as you since you're interrupting. So I'll have no problem doing that. I've been more than generous of allowing you to sort of filibuster when you feel and then to constantly interrupt me.
All right, gentlemen. Listen, we've got maybe about 20 minutes left since we had some tech issues in the beginning. You were doing so good. You were doing so good. Let's get back to good, okay?
We weren't doing good. He wasn't. I was. That's what was happening. So I'll answer the prompt as I see fit. Since we only have 20 minutes, I'll get to the other reasons that I had that Trump was good since he's not doing so good on any of these. We see, for example, what I said was the Overton window shift on a lot of these sort of woke things. This is fantastic that Trump's did that. The cultural shift is probably going to be more lasting than sort of the policy shifts that we could see that I think overwhelmingly the ones we've talked about have been good with Trump.
Where do you feel the Overton window shifted?
I think that it's shifting more away from this woke shit, things like transing children and other things like that that are horrible.
What do you mean when you say transing children?
Like, for example, the idea that we should have this sort of stuff normalized in schools, the idea that we should be pushing for things like hormone blockers, trans issues, telling children.
Like people being allowed to identify how they want? Is that what
you
mean by
pushing that this is something to be prideful for and instructing these things in schools?
Telling people they could be proud of who they are?
Telling people that it's something to be proud of, to be trans, and instituting these things in schools. Other policies.
Can I ask a question? Why do you think the federal government should be dictating what people can and cannot be proud of?
Because the federal government should dictate what we're allowed to teach in public schools because my tax dollars go to it. Would you be okay if the federal, real quick, would you be okay if the federal government was teaching people for white pride and white nationalism? Would you be okay with that?
That they are allowed to be proud that they're white?
Would you be okay if the federal government said that it was okay to have curriculum of talking about white pride and teachers talking about how prideful they were of being white and celebrating their kids talking about being proud to be white? Would you be okay with that?
If somebody can say that on their own? Because I don't think there's a curriculum that's teaching children to be trans. I think there's curriculum, and I've looked at the curriculum in my state. In fact, maybe you could point to one specific I'm unaware of. These are largely done on a local level, but I've never seen a curriculum that is like, hey, we have this whole day where we're going to talk about how it's cool to be trans. Do you have an example of like a curriculum that says that?
No, I don't have them in front of me right now. What I could say is that not only are their curriculum, it's not even necessarily its curriculum, it's the way that these teachers are doing things. We had policies, for example, that said that if a kid came out and said that they wanted to change their pronouns, that teachers were not obligated to tell the parents that. There was an entire discussion
about
Why
should the teacher have to tell the parents?
Let me finish, please. I know the impulse to interrupt is strong with you. Maybe
you should
hold up a sign. Please hold up a sign and read. Please hold up a sign and read your sign.
Let Rob finish.
There you go.
Remember, put the bubble in, let Rob finish, and then you can respond to all of it. Remember,
Yes.
we talked about this already.
So go ahead and read your own sign and let the actual people that know what they're talking about talk a little here. And so what we could see is there are actually policies that suggested that parents not be allowed to hear these sort of things that were being discussed in school. In addition to that, we could see that it wasn't just about the policies, it was about the ways that these teachers were interacting with children, oftentimes shoehorning many pride things and things like that into schools, that there was no business talking about that stuff whatsoever. That Overton window shift is just the least of those things that are good going against woke, and I think we need much more of that, and I'm happy to be on the correct side of this 80-20 issue. I'm more than happy for you to be on the 20, and that's where Kamala Harris would have been.
I think the interesting thing is that we're not on different sides of this issue. You want the government to force speech, and you want the government to be selective in the speech that is allowed. I just think everybody should be allowed to identify how they want. Look, I don't understand what it's like to be a trans person. I have no idea. I can't even fathom it. It's nothing that I've ever dealt with. But at the same time, like, I don't have a problem if somebody wears a cross around their neck. To me, that's just as foreign as somebody identifying as a gender they weren't assigned at birth. It's the same thing to me. I don't like the government being in charge of social aspects, especially the federal government. If you want to do this on a local level, that's one thing. I think that's more acceptable. But these federal bans, and then you guys acting like there was some big push. I would challenge you. Show me a piece of federal legislation that pushed any sort of trans ideology outside of you're allowed to identify how you want.
It's not just about federal legislation. It's about the Overton window shifting and the cultural conversation changing. That's one of the good things that Trump's done.
But that's not the question I asked, which is another.
I don't give a shit. I don't. You're reframing. Okay. You're reframing. Show me one.
If you're not going to answer a question.
I've been answering your questions. I've been answering your questions the entire time, even when they're irrelevant.
I asked you a federal legislation.
Uninterested.
I'm not going to name one.
I'm uninterested. Where did I ever say? Okay, I want you to. That question implies that I claimed that there was federal legislation that put in trans issues. Correct?
Or a Harris policy.
Show me where I said that. Show me where I said that. Harris, right? Show me where I said that. Show me. Okay, show me where I said it.
Wait, hold on. So
show me where I said it. It's pretty frustrating, right? When this shit happens. Go ahead, show me.
No, so you're saying the federal.
Here.
Oh, no. Go ahead, RTP.
Reframe.
No, I'm waiting for Rob.
Reframe, right? Go ahead, show me where I said that.
Did you already do that? Did you have that ready already?
No, I wrote quick. Not everyone operates at a snail's pace.
Yeah, so are you saying then that Harris didn't have any of those policies?
I asked you a question first.
No, you didn't. I asked
Show me where I said
Rob.
that.
I'm asking for clarification. I'm asking.
All right,
moving on. You're saying.
Moving on. The Overton window shifted.
All right, Sarah. Sarah, let's just end it. Like this is absurd.
I bet that you.
This guy won't answer a fucking question. This is crazy.
I bet you won't.
You won't answer. You won't answer if you think Harris had policies that pushed a trans ideology.
I said that the idea was the Overton window shifting on these things. That's what I said.
I know.
On
so
to the corruption,
yes or no, or maybe you can
answer the corruption issues.
In good faith.
Onto the corruption issues. I think that the evidence that we're seeing now, coming, we on limited time because you did so poorly in the first two subjects that you said there was a difference. Onto the corruption issue, I think that you're seeing great evidence coming out now that showed just how corrupt the Democrats have been since 2015, 2016 in their war going after Trump, illegal spying, censorship, etc. And I think that the more of that evidence that comes out, the better both Republicans and Democrats will be, because we'll be able to rein in these corrupt impulses and be able to do something about our government operating outside of our control in the future.
What would you say is like the best example of this administration exposing corruption?
I would say currently what we're seeing is the evidence that's being released by Tulsi Gabbard, including things like the Durham annex that show that it was concocted by the Hillary Clinton team to say that Trump was colluding with Russia and that Russia interfered to help Trump. A conclusion that they never had evidence for and concocted.
Wait, I've got a question about that, because the email that's referenced in the Durham annex that says that cannot be validated. It's the one email in there that they can't find an originator. Nobody can find evidence that it was sent or received. The one email that you're referencing right now is kind of like the crux of the Durham annex, Rob. Have you told your audience that nobody can confirm whether or not that email is correct, but they can confirm basically every other email? And that's the one that they also had to translate that email from Russian. Have you told your audience that, or do you just pretend that was like a legit email and there's no question about whether or not that email was real?
Yes, I've read through the actual documents. Two things to say on this. two things to say in this. One, I'm glad you agree that every other email in the Durham annex was confirmed. There's plenty of other things that it says in there that show corrupt. It's not all hinging on this one email. Secondly, did you tell your audience that the Durham team said that the agents said that even though they couldn't confirm the veracity of this one email, it was most likely a compilation of true facts that they had? Did you tell your audience that?
That's a lie.
Did you tell your audience that? It didn't say that? Do you want to go to the record?
Because,
so you're claiming,
watch
okay.
this. Let me make my claim then. What that actually said is that they could not confirm that email was correct, but that some of the language found in that email directly corroborates with other emails, which, by the way, Russia had also intercepted. So what this looks like to me, and you're making a bold claim that this is somehow corruption, what it looks like to me is that they can confirm all of these emails. And then there's one email that is in like kind of broken English that they had to translate from Russian, by the way. The other ones they didn't have to translate from Russian. This is the only one. True. And that email takes pieces from other emails that Russia would have read and puts it together in one email. It does not confirm the email is real, and you know that, Rob.
That's not true. It said that
this is an unbelievable nothing burger.
It's not a nothing burger. First, you've already admitted that the other things said when there was true. For example, did you agree that all of this was true? That was your claim, that all the other emails were authentic. And the information they had was authentic. Okay, one of the things it said in there, for example, was there was a bunch of information that Russia had about China, of emails that they or about Clinton that they intercepted. One of the things it said, for example, was that the Obama State Department, I think it was either the DOJ or the State Department, reached out to religious groups in the United States and offered to pay them money if they supported Hillary Clinton.
Yeah.
You think that's legit?
That.
Okay.
No, I covered that. I think that's corruption.
Oh, thanks. Then you agree that you're glad that Trump's team exposed this.
No, I agree there's some corruption. I asked you what the corruption was, and you pointed to that email. However, I would also say that this literally, like, that's no difference than the Heritage Foundation. That's no difference than the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. This happens. Like, I'm sorry, our governments are corrupt, but if your big claim here is that the State Department reached out, and by the way, that's also an unverified claim, but they do say it. They don't say that they have verified it. They just claim that somebody said it, right? Would you agree that they just say that somebody said that?
They said that was emails that they had that showed that they had confirmation that
somebody said that. They don't have the emails between. It's that somebody said that, right? It said, I can't remember the exact language that it used, but this was emails that they had intercepted that Russia had a hold of. So the question becomes, one, it seems like this is which you conceded that, yes, you already concede that's corruption. We'll get to that in a second. The second question is, if Russia was intervening to help Trump, why wouldn't they release this and the evidence that they had about Obama's team talking about Hillary's failed health and about evidence that they had that said that Hillary's team was concocting this scheme with Russia? Show me. They did do that.
Show me.
You said about Hillary's health?
Yes, show me.
Dude, there were news stories everywhere. On
that was released by Russia.
Russian state TV was released. Yes.
The claim was that they had specific emails from people in Obama's administration talking about Hillary's poor health. The analyst shows the Durham investigation that looked into this showed that they never released this. They never released the one about the religion.
You're talking about the specific emails?
Correct.
I think the emails exist in the same way that the P-tape exists, in that it doesn't. I think Russia lies all the time about the compromise that they say that they have, and most of the time it doesn't come true. In fact, if you look back at the Trump Tower meeting, that was largely a nothing burger because Russia promised all this dirt, and they showed up and there was like nothing. Don I want to get fuck. You don't have anything. Even though Trump did that night go out and say on Monday I'm going to announce all this dirt on Hillary. And then that never showed up.
I want to get back real quick because I know we have limited time. I want to get back to even you said, yes, it was corrupt that the Obama DOJ offered money to religious groups. And you say that sort of thing happens all the time.
No, it was not the Obama DOJ. Wait,
it was the Obama.
No, it was a claim that a representative from the State Department.
Okay, State Department, my mistake. So you said that sort of thing happens all the time. Can you show me any administration State Department offering to bribe religious organizations to vote for their party? Can you show me that?
I could show accusations of it, just like you're showing accusations of it.
You said that it was corrupt. Can you show me? You said that stuff happens all the time. Show me proof.
The accusations, the exact same thing.
Show me proof.
Showing.
Okay, let's
I
see
have the same. I have the same level of proof that you do.
Somebody
said it.
You made the claim. Show me.
Okay. That. Yeah. I could. Let me see if I have this in an email.
Russian Federal Security Service in August had details of secret meetings with multiple named U.S. religious organizations in which U.S. State Department representatives offered, in exchange for supporting Secretary Clinton, significant increase in financing from department funds and patronage of the state in dealing with post-Soviet countries. So it's not just someone said it. They had details of these meetings with multiple named U.S. religious organizations. Now, do you think that this accusation was at least serious enough to be investigated?
It was investigated.
Who investigated it?
Durham, I believe, sent no, he didn't do a criminal referral. The Republican whatever committee then investigated it, and they have not submitted a criminal referral for it. In fact, in the Durham annex, it does not state that there was a crime committed.
When did they?
Durham doesn't even conclude that.
When did they investigate this?
I think it was that Senate committee, congressional committee in 2020. The
2020,
the Durham annex, right?
Okay, so then why, if the FBI is using all this unverified shit to investigate Trump, why, when all of these damning accusations are being made, also through communications intercepted by Russia, was not the FBI in 2016 investigating the Hillary side?
Well, she did get investigated, but not for working with Russia.
What'd she get investigated for? Just curious.
She got investigated. I think it was for her emails, and then I think there was also an investigation about that tarmac meeting with whoever the fuck that was.
Loretta Lynch. You mean when the head of the DOJ that refused to? This is what you're talking about. The head of the DOJ. The head of the DOJ, who actually was the one with the charging decision and whether or not to charge Hillary Clinton, was meeting in secret with her husband, and then refused to recuse herself.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would say that that's not a good sign. That's the level.
I agree.
Of sort of.
That's why I didn't vote for Hillary Clinton.
Nonetheless, the point that we're starting to see more and more evidence of this is good. The people need to see how corrupt this stuff is, and that the entire Russia collusion thing was started by Hillary Clinton's team, and Barack Obama went right along with it in order to sabotage Trump's first term.
Wait, the Russia collusion was started by Hillary Clinton's team?
Yes, the Russia collusion narrative to smear Trump as being connected to Russia in order to distract from her email server was concocted by Hillary Clinton's team and the Obama.
Are you adding stuff from the Durham annex? The Durham annex doesn't conclude
No,
that.
the Durham annex not only says that, but we also knew prior to this from the handwritten notes of John Brennan that he personally briefed Barack Obama at the end of July or maybe the very beginning of August that this was a plan concocted by Hillary Clinton.
No, that's not what it says. Can you read that specifically?
Go ahead. You bring it up.
I don't have it up. You're the one with it in front of you.
I don't have it in front of me.
What are you citing then? Are you not reading something
from memory?
Okay. Yeah, well, you're making that claim. Now I have to disprove all your claims.
You have yet.
Can you just show? Can you show? You haven't proved a single claim, bud. Can you just show me where the Durham where they conclude that this was concocted by Hillary? I'd like you to read that for the audience here, please.
Let's see. I'd like to share screen here if that's fine.
Sure.
We're going right into a tire from blank. Cite the alleged approval by Hillary Clinton of a proposed from her foreign policy to which to vilify Trump as being connected to Russia.
And then
according to his handwritten notes, please let me finish. You asked a question.
I thought you were done. I thought you
according to his handwritten notes, former Central Intelligence Agency Director Brennan subsequently briefed President Obama and other senior national security officials on intelligence, including the alleged approved by Hillary Clinton on July 26, 2016, the proposal of one of her foreign policy advisors to vilify Donald Trump by stirring up a scandal claiming interference by Russian security services.
The what approval? What was that word right before approval?
The word right before approval
is
let's see, including the alleged approval.
Who made that out? Who made that allegation?
It would be communications that they had from Hillary's team.
So this is a report. If you read the Durham annex, you'll know that everybody on Hillary's team that was questioned about this specifically from the email, they all said, "I have no recollection of that. I do not we didn't plan that. If somebody if somebody did." They didn't tell me about it. There is no evidence that this is real. That's why it says alleged. So what John Brennan wrote is that people are alleging approval by Hillary Clinton. And in order for you to say that this is true, Rob, you would have to prove that that's true. But your evidence that something is true is a handwritten set of notes from John Brennan, who didn't work for the Hillary campaign, who is writing down notes saying that somebody is alleging that this happened. This has the same amount of evidence as the P tape, which you guys all wholesale reject. This is not
what it does
evidence,
is you could is see the double standard, and there's other evidence that's given in the annex and with Tulsi's files that have been released. It shows the double standard where the FBI took any unverified accusation about Donald Trump and they ran with it. In fact, included in the ICA, the bulk of what it's talking about from the Durham annex shows that there was all sorts of disagreements and incredibly shady, non-verifiable evidence that previously, before Barack Obama ordered that they redo the ICA, was discounted by intelligence.
What was the shady evidence, Rob?
For example, there was a sentence fragment that was used in this. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Yeah, there's a sentence fragment that was used. And what they say is they cite unnamed officials, and they say that the Obama officials, some of them believed that this showed that Putin had a preference for Trump, and some of them didn't. And what that ICA report concluded is that the solution to fixing this is add better footnotes and be a little more clear about how sure you are of this one sentence. That sentence, Republicans pretending that one sentence alone launched the Russia investigation is so fucking stupid. This is different people disagreeing. And by the way, it's ironic that the Republicans are citing unnamed sources. It's ironic that we don't know who those people are, right? It just says a senior intelligence agent. It doesn't say what administration they work for. It doesn't say what their position is. It just says somebody that's like a senior, and it's even blacked out. Like, we don't know if it's CIA or FBI, if I remember correctly.
No, that's not true. It's not.
I just before you respond, I just want to say I'm giving you exactly 5 more minutes to finish up, and then we'll conclude, okay? Because I wanted you to be able to at least have something to finish here.
Okay, that's not true. It says that it was of the 5 CIA analysts that were appointed under Brennan, 2 of them said that they were not comfortable with much of this evidence. Secondly, the thing that this shows is that there was almost all the accusations that Russia was trying to intervene to help Trump were bullshit. It was things like we were told specifically by Brennan that it didn't include the dossier, but it did. It included a reference that said, see the appendix for the dossier. There were 4 things, including this sentence fragment, the dossier, and a couple other things that were unverified, just bullshit. But that was enough for the ultimate ICA report to say, yes, Russia did interfere. You're right, it was unverified. You're right that it was bullshit. And what this says, the idea that it's like, well, we don't know the exact CIA person's name because it's been redacted, and therefore it's somehow ironic, is laughable. Durham knew who that person was. They redacted it because they don't want to put this CIA analyst's name out there, I guess. But nonetheless, the accusations are stark. When it comes to investigating Donald Trump or making claims about Donald Trump, they went, even if you say alleged, you'll acknowledge this, that Barack Obama knew, and John Brennan knew, and James Comey knew that there were at least accusations that this plan was concocted by Hillary Clinton, correct?
They knew that someone said that. I don't think that they knew that there was any evidence there. And by reading the Durham Annex and the ICA report, I don't see any evidence there. Everybody involved said, no, this never happened.
How does that have to do?
They can't provide any evidence that there was ever a plan concocted. It's just one person said it.
So then your answer to me is in the affirmative. I said they at least knew that there were accusations that this was a plan concocted by Hillary.
But that's it.
You could, okay. And so despite that, when the intelligence community never said that Russia was interfering to help Trump, and then Barack Obama is getting their ICA and decides on December 6th or 7th, no, you guys have to redo this. And then within days, it's being leaked to the press. Oh, there's a consensus on this. Don't you think that Barack Obama knew how bad it would look if they're actually using unverified information like this to come to this conclusion? Would you admit that like this sentence fragment is nothing, or the Steele dossier is nothing that should have been included in the intelligence community assessment to make a definitive claim?
With that.
Why should they be included?
Well, because I don't think they made a definitive claim based on that sentence fragment.
What were the claims that they made that Russia was interfering to help Trump? Give me the evidence.
Well, let's first talk about this sentence fragment, because what this sentence fragment is somebody saying, like, this is part of the evidence. We believe that Russia wanted to help Trump. I think there's plenty of evidence to support that going forward. I think that from the ICA report, which, by the way, could we also be honest? The ICA report's not an investigation. There were no charges. There was no accusation. It was simply a report of what the intelligence agents had gathered. That's what the ICA report was. This isn't like some investigation where they were framing Trump. They were literally putting together the information that they had, right?
Nonetheless, what we could see is, yes, they're putting it because it was part and parcel. Barack Obama specifically was talking about wanting to get this information out before Trump came in, because in order to smear Trump as colluding with Russia, they needed to make the argument that Russia was interfering to help Trump. I want you to show me the evidence that the ICA, which previously did not make that claim, and then after Obama said, I want you to re-look in it, give me the evidence that they used that is sufficient to say, yes, they could make the judgment highly confident that Russia interfered to help Trump. What's the evidence that they cited? A sentence fragment? The dossier? What else?
They said how confident they were. If you read that sentence fragment, they explain exactly. They say, and it's mostly redacted, but they say this is a source. It's a confidential source. I believe it's somebody that's like one step away from the Kremlin, and they say that this source has been accurate in the past, but all that stuff's mostly blacked out. So that's why in the ICA report, the suggestion is not even. And by the way, this review of the ICA report was done by Republicans, and the Republicans at the end of that ICA report basically said, yeah, this was all pretty standard, pretty by the book. In this one instance, when it came to did Putin have a preference, I think they could have been more clear on how sure they were.
Give me the evidence. I noticed that you didn't answer the question. Give me the evidence.
One more minute.
For what?
Give me the evidence that led them to the conclusion that Russia interfered to help Trump.
That it was that sentence, and they didn't conclude that Russia wanted to help Trump. They said this source is telling us that Russia wants to help Trump.
That's not true. They said that it was high confidence. The assessment said that they had high confidence that Russia interfered to help Trump. And you're saying based on a sentence fragment.
Source. Based on who the source was.
It doesn't matter.
It was
who was the source?
It's redacted.
Okay, so the argument that I'm making is this: previously we had two analysts that said that they didn't believe this, that could have meant anything, right? And that's clearly not enough evidence. My entire claim on this has been, when it comes to things, no matter how nebulous, how unprovable it is against Trump, it's always go after him as much as possible. When it comes to those sorts of claims against Hillary, it's, well, we don't know, it's just alleged, etc. The FBI, James Comey, Brennan, Barack Obama knew that there were at least accusations, which we can now see is verified true, that Hillary's team they're the ones that came up with the dossier trying to smear Trump as connected to Russia. We do know that's true.
Didn't that start with Republican? No, Fusion GPS was, it was started by Republicans.
That's not true. We did this last time.
Me?
That's not true. Show me the
Republican research was not started by Republicans.
Last thing I'll say about this is,
wait, you
show
me a question.
Hold on. I want him to wrap it up, and then we'll move to closing. And then listen. Hold your thought, Rob, for just a second. Keep it in your head. We're going to let Rob wrap that thought real quick. RTP, you're going to start with closings, then Rob will close, and then we'll go through super chats, and then all of this other bullshit can be brought right back up when we go into open panel. And
now, wait, before we go into open panel, I would like to discuss the issue real briefly of the channel thing, which I think we've been polite and allowed it to go towards the end. Is that fair?
Let's do closing statements
first,
yeah,
that's fine.
And then you guys can start taking stabs at each other, and that's when my little...
No problem.
Okay. All right.
So the point that I was making is, no, it is true that Republicans were doing opposition research. However, they stopped that research before Fusion GPS started to fund the dossier.
Okay.
Did they pick up on that opposition research? Did they jump off of the opposition research from the Republicans and build off of that?
No, they started to fund a dossier that had nothing to do with Republicans, nor would it matter to your argument whatsoever anyways.
All right, RTP, why don't you go ahead and maneuver into your closing statements? You can wrap and bow tie that last thought that you had right into it as well if you want. You still have technically 8 minutes, so you're welcome to take it. But go ahead.
Sure. Yeah. What I think we saw, it's crazy. We got to Hillary Clinton here, and well done, Rob, getting to Hillary Clinton. That's in Crossfire Hurricane. I know that's always a goal of yours. So kudos to you. I do think that what we've had tonight, at the very least, or at the very best, could be Rob has an ideology that he likes. I don't like that same ideology. There's been no evidence that Donald Trump is better than the status quo, which is what I've heard Rob for months now say is all that really mattered. I think that if we would have gotten further into this, I do think that we could argue about the cultural implications of Trump being president versus Harris. I don't think Trump is nearly as popular as Rob thinks. I don't think Trump's positions are nearly as popular as Rob thinks. But mostly, What I will say is that no other president in the history of our country would have had this tariff policy. It's moronic. It doesn't make any fucking sense. It's a tax on the middle class. It's not making our economy stronger. It's cutting off our relationships with countries all around the world. And China is more than happy to come in and scoop up the contracts that we dropped through USAID and scoop up the countries who no longer view the United States as a honest trading partner, because we have a dishonest president who changes his mind every 12 seconds. I think that the worst person we possibly could have had to be president is Donald Trump. And I think that you have a lot of people like Rob and this audience who really just like Donald Trump because he's cruel and he doesn't back down. But the reality is Donald Trump is a dumb guy and Rob is a smart guy. And so that's why it's so hard for Rob to defend Donald Trump, because you have to go into like 4D chess. You have to pretend that Donald Trump not ever stating publicly the correct definition of a tariff is somehow like evidence that he's brilliant. Donald Trump has never spoken about any policy in depth at all. He's just a dumb guy that was born with the silver spoon in his mouth, which is why none of these policies make any sense. It'll be interesting to see 6 months from now if Donald Trump doubles down on these policies and he tries to generate revenue from tariffs. I do think that the predictions of inflation will come true. Now, Rob leans on this argument that there were all these people who said inflation was going to hit and it didn't. And what he leaves out every single time is the reason inflation didn't hit is because Trump didn't do the tariffs, because Trump's a coward and he backs down. But now we're starting to see some of the tariffs hit and we're starting to see prices rise. And this idea that more tariffs will somehow stop this rise in pricing and bring it back down, I believe on its face is asinine. Sarah, I appreciate you having me again. Rob, I appreciate it. I'm done.
Thank you, RTP. And Rob, to you.
If only my opponent would have put more time in actually coming up with reasons that Donald Trump was bad, instead of just putting time into making signs that weren't funny, even at the onset, let alone as he did it through the millionth time, maybe we could have had a better debate. But probably wouldn't have been the case, because it seems that he either lacks the intelligence to be able to do this, or he's not good faith enough to do. We started off, for example, talking about the areas of disagreement we had, particularly on the economy, and he misled people right out of the gate in the first place, saying that it was just about the total amount of debt that was spent under Joe Biden versus Donald Trump. Then he said, no, it was about projected debt. Then he led us to believe that the data set that he was using was comprehensive for Biden's entire term, but somehow specifically chose to only use something through year 3. It's this sort of thing that you see constantly. And it's ironic because he claims that I'm moving goalposts and reframing questions, etc. This is constantly what he did the entire way through the debate. I'll go back to my opening statement and be able to discuss quite easily how my opponent was unable to argue anything or win any substantive issue at any level as to why Donald Trump wouldn't have been preferred over Kamala Harris. He makes this argument about the status quo or something like that. He's never able to clearly articulate why that would be the case. We talk specifically about how when it comes to Kamala just being an extension of the Biden administration, his policies were worse off. When it comes to economic gains, such as real wage growth and things that we should prefer, clearly it's been better under both terms of Donald Trump than it was under the Harris-Biden administration. It would have continued to be better. He just says, no, all the good things with the economy are because of Harris. All the bad things because of her economy were because of COVID. And we don't know when we could look. At one point in this debate, I shit you not, if you're just catching this now, he literally said we couldn't use the years of Biden that were affected by COVID. And then when I said, okay, what year can we use? Year 1, year 2, year 3, year 4. Each time he said, what was inflation? What was inflation? What was inflation? And when I accidentally read year 3's number on year 4, he said, no, we also couldn't count for year 4. That means that we can't hold Biden to account for anything during his term that has to do with inflation. But then as soon as we get to the Trump years, all of a sudden we could say, now finally we could judge Biden's policies because the good economic data under Trump is because of Biden. But not when it comes to steak prices. That inflation is all Trump's fault. You can see the nonsensical nature of this. Inflation was a disaster under the Harris-Biden administration. They gaslit us that it wasn't bad. Real wage growth was down. It's up so far under Trump. There's also the idea of the status quo was going to be a disaster for working class people in the manufacturing sector. It would have made us rely on places like China that are our enemy. He simply says that's okay. Give China that sort of leverage over us. We'll just choose not to go to war with them. That's the argument that he made there. As long as we don't go to war with them, it'll be okay. That's the argument that he said. And so we could see, to bring back that manufacturing sector, I even thought that we would see short-term economic pain, which we haven't really seen. Actually, things have been markedly good, better than most people expected. And so I think with the economy, it's going great. We get to immigration. He's basically just like, well, I don't like that he's doing it via executive fiat. Yeah, straight W for me. Cool. You don't have to like how he got it done. He's legally doing it. And it is showing that it was a choice to have these border policies that we had that were a disaster. Kudos Donald Trump from shoring that up. That's fantastic. He doesn't make any other substantive debates on the immigration. We didn't get to things like the peace deals that Donald Trump helped broker, which I think were very important. We talked about the Overton window shifting. He didn't really have an argument in that. Is to just say like, yeah, but what were the federal policies on trans stuff? We don't have time to get into the details of it because we're already at 20 minutes left in the debate, because it was like pulling teeth to get him to admit that when he was even wrong about the data that he was putting forth. Nonetheless, I think that that's an important part of the Trump administration shifting this Overton window and starting to get rid of this woke shit. I think that'll actually benefit the left going forward as well, as they understand that they were wrong on this 80-20 issue and will continue to be. The more radical of them will stick with it, but I hope that more sensible people actually come to the conclusion that this was wrong. This also goes with things like degeneracy that's been pushed, and I hope that these cultural impacts will actually have more of a positive effect than even the political impacts that Donald Trump could seek to have. None of this would have had a chance of happening under a Kamala Harris administration. They'd have doubled down on all the, oh, what's the biological difference between men and women, and biological men and women's sports don't matter, blah, blah, blah. It would have been a doubling down of all of that shit. Woke stuff would have surfaced again, and we would have seen that it would have been a disaster. Now, my opponent, as you can see, he's very good at one thing, and that's looking like a complete and fucking total goober as he holds up signs, because he's incapable of actually making arguments in the debate, so he had to rely on props. I'm sure he does the same in the bedroom. Lastly, we look at things such as sex trafficking numbers and things like that that have been down. We didn't get a chance to get into this, but we see all the people that were lost, children particularly under the Biden administration, which we're starting to find some of those. I'm not as happy with those numbers as I would like to be with Trump, but I still think that at least there's a net gain. Thousands of kids that we've lost contact with now being found, which is a good thing, because we lost thousands to hundreds of thousands, depending on how you count it, under the Biden administration. Ultimately, I don't feel that my opponent made any substantive arguments as to what would have been better under Kamala Harris, or why Trump's not better than Kamala Harris for those numbers that I just gave. We didn't get into a lot of foreign policy. I would have been happy to get into it, why it was better under Trump than it would have been Kamala Harris, but I mentioned these things in the opening statement. His opening statement was just talking about, I made signs, it's going to be cool. He literally made no arguments. It was actually pathetic. It's sad to see. I was hoping for a more challenging debate. When it came to the Russiagate stuff and things like that proper, you could see he even at one point says, yeah, it's very corrupt for the Obama State Department or whatever to offer money to religious organizations. Yeah, that's corrupt. I agree, that's corrupt. And then says, yeah, but everyone does it. That's how it happens all the time. It's just utter insane horseshit. He doesn't have an answer for the clear double standard and the fact that it's good to be transparent and release more of this information, which hopefully shows us that there was corruption. And hopefully we start to see indictments. I'm not hopeful, but it could be a chance that we'll see these indictments, and if so, I'll be interested to hear RTP say how that's a bad thing. When it came to things like price controls, I think he does a terrible job of showing where they've ever been successful. Price controls are a form of socialism. It's something to be rejected. Kamala Harris talked about banning fracking before. We see the disastrous policies of affecting the energy infrastructure in places like New Jersey, which is the things I was talking about, and how that's leading 3 times to the price of electricity for people there. And we didn't get into this much, but how Kamala Harris is one of the most untrustworthy people ever, seeing as how she lied, was connected to Donald Trump, and lied about his obvious cognitive decline over and over again. Something that most Democrats, I don't know about RTP, but most Democrats were happy to do, despite the fact that the evidence was right in front of our face. And that's one of the most insane lies that I've ever heard. It goes right along with their gaslighting that the border was secure, that the economy was doing good. But to see evidence of Joe Biden's obvious cognitive decline to the people that are connected to him most to tell us to not believe our lying eyes was absolutely insane. Also doesn't answer for the fact that the left is becoming more radical, and an election of Kamala Harris would have encouraged even more of that. So we'd have seen more Luigi Mangione, more things like the riots against ICE agents, etc. So ultimately, at the end of the day, I just think that my opponent failed to make any arguments. He exhibited that he's either bad faith or that he's incapable of understanding the very evidence that he's putting forth. Anyone could go back and watch and see this. I wish that my opponent would have made more arguments, but basically he's just saying Trump's just basically the status quo, so he wouldn't have been better than Kamala Harris. I'm at least making substantive claims as to why it's different and why I am hopeful that he will actually have a lot of benefit in this country, not just for people like me, but for all of us included in that we, which is citizens of the United States. So far, it's been pretty good, even if it's not perfect. There are definitely things to criticize Trump about, but his policies have been geared to or benefiting the people of the United States instead of people around the world, and I think that that is a net positive. Hopefully next time we debate a topic like this, we can get someone who's more interested in debating than holding up signs.
Woo!
The signs got to you. I made a prediction. No. I told you it would get to him, guys. I told you.
That's not getting to me. I'm glad you did it. You made a fool of yourself the entire debate. I gotta go to the restroom real quick. I'll be right back.
Go ahead. Then
I'm happy to get into the difference of our channels. I would love to, RTP.
There's actually some super chats about it, so we can get down to that. There's quite a few of them about it. While he's stepping away, cool. V1C coming in with a big 20 just to say hello to all of you maters. For the record, I am dropping the open panel link into the chat right now. If you want to come join Open Panel Dumpster Fire, now is the time to start jumping backstage. Let me end that poll too. That way it doesn't get in their way. Okay. Chad comes in with a big 10. To fix problem, kick Ryan. Poor Ryan. Ryan wasn't even on screen and shots fired at him. I'm sure he'll be up in a little bit. We love Ryan here, but, well, I love Ryan here, but Ryan gets kicked a lot from stage. So
sorry, Ryan.
It's okay. K2 keep on trucking says Sara and her bangs working hard for the money. She works hard for the money. Rachel says maybe in the future, this little Nancy can spend less time on crafts and cute little signs and more time supporting his arguments. They were cute signs, though. They are very cute.
I would also like, I'd also like to point out, I didn't make the claim. It's Rob's job if he makes the claim, and I know that this is like a thing that this channel doesn't understand, because when I made the positive claim with Andrew and with Steven, this whole channel was like, it's your job to defend the claim. But now when Rob makes the claim, they're like, it's your job to disprove his claim. That's how this works. I thought that was the structure here.
I don't think you understand what Andrew's arguing. I didn't watch your debate with him, but the idea as an affirmative, you have to defend a claim. I am. When I say offense, what I'm saying is I'm giving you offensive reasons to prefer Trump to Kamala. You don't have to. You could argue that Trump's no better than Kamala. That's certainly a path, but it's a very poor strategy to just be like, I'll say Trump's just the status quo. A better debate strategy would be to say, no, actually, Trump's worse. Trump's bad.
I'm not looking for advice from a guy that nobody wants to debate anymore. I'm not looking for advice from
They don't want to debate me because they don't do so well.
No, I've talked to everybody. Like I've talked to people.
Give me the people you talked to.
Adam Kahn.
Okay, that's one guy that I debated from TikTok once that muted me the entire time.
No, it was like 3 months ago, and you didn't ever. He never.
Oh, on Jake Rattlesnake show.
I don't know who Jake Rattlesnake is.
I don't remember.
There was
who
a
Adam
moderator.
Kahn is. Okay.
There was a moderator. Yeah.
Adam Kahn doesn't want to debate me anymore.
Yeah.
Fine.
I mean,
I thought that
like,
debate was very cordial. Cool. You talked to him. What did he say?
There's a lot of people that don't want to debate you, Rob.
Sarah, do you want to get through super chats first, or do you want me to argue with him about the personal shit?
Quite frankly, I mean, a lot of people reach out to me to set up debates, and Rob is on my Rolodex of options. I haven't experienced that with Rob. Nobody said no when I've offered him up as a sacrifice.
Yeah, but he talked to one guy,
and I took it too, right? I took the debate too, so obviously I'm okay doing it.
Disproving your own point.
No,
you talked to one guy that said he didn't want to talk to me. I'll reach out to him. I'll say, Adam, apparently you said to RTP that you never want to debate me again. I thought it was a cordial debate.
Actually, that's not what I said. I said, you've debated my friend Adam. And I said specifically, I won't tell you the people who told me they don't want to debate with you.
Well, I don't believe you.
And I think maybe the reason is because, like, last time I debated you,
I don't believe you. I think you're lying. I don't think those people reached out to you. You're
fine.
A nobody.
Well.
All right. Cool. All right. Okay.
Why are you hiding? You can't tell me who they are?
It's not I never do this. I did this with Andrew too, and Andrew thought I was lying too, and I was proven right on that one too. I don't lie about.
I can't tell you, but people. No one wants to debate you.
If I were you, Rob, I wouldn't make Rob. If I were you, I wouldn't get closer to the camera. It makes your face look even fatter. It's tough.
That's a good one. By the way, Sarah, if you could put the super chats wait for a second, if you don't mind, we'll get into the channel stuff here. One of the things you said that I saw a clip of today was you said you didn't know what my marital status is, but you're assuming I don't get any, or I don't get much. That's what you said?
Did I say that?
That's what you said?
I could have said that.
Okay. Are you married?
No.
Really? Please explain. You're such a catch.
You want me to explain why I'm not
Yeah,
married?
explain. Clearly, I must not get much, but you clearly are raking it in. Why aren't you married?
I do just fine. Thank you.
No one could stand you? I've talked to Adam Kahn, and he said, my friend Adam, that says, no chick can stomach being with you.
Cool.
Yeah. Do you make signs when you're in bed with those ladies, too, that says poor performance?
Oh, no.
Sorry that I'm crying? Is that the sort of signs you make there as well? Reframe the dick? Is that what you're doing to try to help you out there? Yeah, that's what I thought. Yeah. Now, to go to the channel stuff specifically, you say that my channel is much smaller than yours. That's your claim? Okay, so I actually went, we could share the screen if you like. Can you explain if it looks suspicious or not that your recent videos have like 90,000, 100,000 of views, but only like 1 or 2 comments?
No.
Huh, that's weird. Then when I look,
I know why. Hold on, I know why. Because he does horizontal streaming, and the reels like that, I call them like pseudo watches, because it's when they flip through, it counts as a watch. So it doesn't mean, no offense, but it doesn't mean they're necessarily watching.
Let's
but they're
take a look.
Through.
You get put in front of more eyes, and I'm a live streamer. So the comments during the live stream, then if you vertically live stream, the comments don't show up in the replay, do they, Rob?
Oh,
the comments that people are making after the channel do. Now, if you could share that screen, that screen, Sarah.
Oh, yeah.
Is this crazy?
All right, so here is RTP's followers. Now, look, when he starts here in August, look, he's getting a lot of followers here real quick. Now, wait a minute. When you look recently, December 2024, like almost nothing, like almost no interaction.
That's actually not correct.
Really?
I can show you I'll show you I can go to YouTube Studio and I can show you right now the numbers. I don't know where Social Blade's pulling these numbers. I'm more than happy to show you my YouTube Studio right now. Would you like to see YouTube Studio numbers?
Sure. Let's see it. We also have Playboard here. Oops, sorry, I'm using.
Playboard's pretty good. I think you can actually on Social Blade, I'll pull it up on my end, but you can actually do a actual comparison between 2 channels. I'll play with that on my end and see what's going on.
I'm trying to share now. Let's see. Let's do that one. Let's look at some of the engagement here, RTP.
Sure.
Your like rate, very low. Your comment rate, 0.04, very low.
Yeah.
Now you got a lot of viewers, average viewers. You got a shitload. How are you doing financially? Let's see. Not bad. Okay, now you're so much better than me, right? Right?
That revenue's where was that revenue? Total revenue.
Is that Playboard?
Yeah.
That revenue's incorrect too.
Mm-hmm. Now let's see how I do comparison. Is that fair? Let's do that. Because you're right. You're doing so much better than me. Just like you are in life, not being married. So let's bring me up.
This is crazy.
You're the one who brought it up. And people
no,
don't
you did.
Watch me.
You brought it up in your opening statement.
What did I say? That most people watch you on TikTok.
You said, yeah,
and that you should be
most
happy.
Of my views are actually on YouTube.
Okay, I didn't know that. I thought that you were someone who predominantly streams on TikTok, and I
so
just made a simple comment that you should be happy that Trump kept TikTok.
Well, the last time we debated, the part that you're leaving out is the last time we debated, your little dude Aftershock and you made it a point to say that I was a nobody because I was on TikTok, and it's hard to get real views on YouTube.
I didn't
and I would
say
just
shit.
point out that. And I would just point out that if you look at my growth, it's pretty good. In fact, my growth is on par with Sarah's growth. You're pulling these Social Blade numbers that you don't understand what you're looking at. I appreciate it.
I didn't say shit. Just because someone else said something, I didn't say shit to you. Did I? Did I say anything about you being a little TikTok streamer? Did I say anything?
You did on the stream. I could go.
I don't think I did,
check, but I think you did.
Here's my engagement.
2 more minutes to finish this one up.
You're right when it comes to sort of subscribers and average video views. It's low, but look at that engagement, 7.9%. What was yours again?
the 1,000. Well, see the difference.
Comment rate very high. Viewers low. You're right. Revenue 71,000. That's close.
Sarah, do any comments count for my comment view that happen on a live stream when it's in vertical? Do you know the answer to that question?
Live engagement?
Yeah.
They don't count in the regular comments, but you actually have a chat rate.
No, but when we look at this number that he's showing here, would any of the comments during my live look, dude, there's people in this audience right now that make 500 comments per live stream.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
well, does
they're
that
all
count?
here.
Does that count
doesn't
to
count on
does
comment
that
rate.
count to comment rate?
That engagement rate, click on engagement rate. That's not your vertical live stream engagement rate. That's your video's engagement rate.
So wait, I just want to be clear. You're saying that you have someone in the chat that comments like 500 times in your video.
Easy.
Okay, and so even with that one individual, your rate's still that low.
No, the rate doesn't factor in live comments. Dummy.
You would have to pull up. Well, hold on, hold on. Let me pull up Playboard, but I think
you can just drop in. You can just drop in my live tomorrow, and you can see how many people are commenting. There's usually like somewhere between 800 and 1,200 concurrent viewers in there every day. You think they're just sitting there saying nothing?
No, I think that
I mean, look, there's people in this chat that will back me up. There's people that don't like me that come to my stream every day who will come up later. This is silly. I think the idea that you're bragging about how viewed you are, I think you made $12 today. And what did it say I made today, Rob? If we're going to compare, let's do that. What was your revenue today versus what my revenue was today?
All right. Wait.
Because you brought up money, right?
I made up $12 today.
Okay.
And you made how much?
I think it said like 127. I think is what it said.
Let's check.
Today's revenue. Well, it's not going to put today's in. We can go. I can look at. We could do month or even week. How much you made the week?
I mean, I'm not interested in this. I don't think the audience is interested in this either. I don't care. Like, my growth has been phenomenal. I've got 1.1 million views in the last month. What are your total? You have 1.4 million. Is that total?
Yeah, my claim is that your views don't seem.
In the last month.
My claim is that your views don't seem organic, seeing as how your like rate's very low.
You don't know what you're looking at.
I do know what I'm looking.
That's why I say we could take this off. That's why I say the vertical streaming. I tried it like a couple times and I hated it because I felt like the numbers were flying, but the engagement was low. Right. So like I just call them pseudo viewers because they're just literally scroll and then they see your face. They stay for 3 seconds and scroll. And there's like 500 people who happen to land on your face at the same time. And then they flip out, too.
Sure.
But
I would just challenge anybody here.
And I'm not saying that's yours.
Just see.
I'm not saying that's yours. I'm saying that's what I perceive as the vertical views.
I think that
it's easy to settle. Show up tomorrow and look if there's people commenting. If they're not, then I'm obviously faking it. If there are a lot of comments, then maybe I'm not faking it. You guys can decide yourself. I'm not interested in debating this any longer. This silly dick measuring is dumb.
I just want to be clear.
I just want to be clear.
The silly dick measuring was you. I just said you get views on TikTok. You should be happy that Trump saved TikTok, and you're like, no one watches you. Then when I prove how suspicious your numbers are, you're like, this is silly. It's dick measuring. Much like your stupid fucking signs. Much like your stupid fucking signs and things like that. I could go to Playboard and see my name with super chats near the top every month. Last month, I think I was 17th in the country. Where were you?
I don't even know what you're talking about.
When we go to Playboard, right, and we look.
I've never looked at Playboard.
Right. Well, that's because it keeps a comprehensive amount of things like your viewers, your super chats, etc. I'm like 17th in the country, a nobody like me, and yet somehow you don't even make anywhere near the top like 100, 1,000.
Well, you looked at my numbers. They were a lot higher than yours on revenue today, wasn't it?
No, I don't think that it's even counted today. Right now, I have something. Right now, I have.
You showed whatever.
You want to know why? You want to know why? You
want
to know why? So just today alone, we'll see comprehensive. Once we pass the night, we'll see who had more today. I had 800 and something this morning, and now I have 55 individual super chats on this video alone. Let's see who does better for today. How about that?
I don't care about any of this.
That's right. You don't care because you tried to measure your dick that, by the way, no woman's interested enough to marry. And then once you got fucking smacked around, you're like, I don't care about this. It's dick measuring. You're one of the worst debaters I've ever seen. Your undue sense of arrogance and confidence belies the stupidity and bad faith that you exhibit. But at least you're good at making props and making excuses and whining to the moderator when you're getting blown the fuck out. That you're good at. We'll give you that at least. Maybe that's not worth a lot of super chats.
Are the dicks put away now? Can we move on?
Mine's been away.
All right.
Don't forget. Rob hasn't seen his dick in years. What are we talking about?
That's not true. I see it all the time. So's my wife.
I don't want to know. I don't want to know. I don't want to know.
What's your wife think of yours?
I don't want to know.
RTP.
I don't talk about.
Do you have
I don't
kids?
talk about my personal life. I do have.
Oh,
a kid,
you
yeah.
don't. You just talk about others. Well, then I'll talk about it for you. How's that sound?
Go ahead, Rob.
Okay, I will. I think before you insult other people and say that they're not getting laid and shit, maybe you should look at that mirror yourself. People like
I'm
you that
doing
want to
great. I'm
accuse
doing
someone
fine,
like
bud.
me of being an incel, where I'm actually married and have children.
I didn't
What are you
accuse you
doing?
of being an incel. Actually,
You
what
said that I
specifically
probably
said is-
don't get much.
Oh, you may not. I don't know. Do you?
Why would you even bring it up? Why are you interested in my sex life?
Because I think you're kind of like a miserable fucking person, and I
Very
can't imagine
happy,
somebody
actually.
wanting to be around you.
Well, you'd be
mostly it.
wrong, and yet you're the one that no one wants to be around.
Oh, I'm doing great, bud.
I'm
doing
sure
great.
you are. I'm sure you're doing great. Do you have kids?
I do.
Wow. Where's mom?
It's none of your fucking business. Nobody.
That's
I don't
right.
talk
It is
about
none of my
personal life.
business. Just like my sex life and personal life's none of yours. So maybe
I
you ought
didn't
to keep
ask.
it out of your fucking mouth when you yourself shouldn't cast stones when you're living in a glass house, my friend. Why don't you worry about taking care of your fucking kids and finding a lady that could be a mother to them before you try to insult someone like me, you fucking loser.
Are we done, gentlemen? Dicks put
I'm
away.
having a great time.
Yeah. It's just,
Dicks put
awesome.
away. All right, we're gonna move on. You got it all off your chest, correct? Everybody done?
I'm fine.
All right. Rachel says it's literally impossible to factor out COVID. It's just one variable. It would be a cascade of infinite variables. Can't be done. And by the way, the panel link has been dropped in the chat. It's pinned at the top. If you want to hop backstage, there's still some more spots back there. Maybe RTP should have used some of that sign making time to actually construct real arguments. They were cute though. I would have been happier if it had glitter on them or something. RTP has moved those goalposts so many times. We need to space shuttle to bring them back to Earth. And you guys are welcome to respond all you want. I'm just moving along. Rob 2, RTP 0. If economy is so badly affected by lockdowns, why did states who locked down do better?
They didn't. Places like Florida were economically doing much better than places like New York.
Fair enough. Kokomo says, move past the economic figures and talk more about word salad lady.
I don't know what that means. I have no idea.
I don't know, word salad lady. Or maybe they're saying lady. How much to kick discount Dave Smith? Who's Dave Smith? Is that someone?
Libertarian debater.
Oh, okay. RTP, 125,000 views on your last video, 2 comments. That's suspect numbers, brah.
Yeah,
RTP,
I'm not. Once again, nobody knows what they're looking at all. You can. I'm happy to show my analytics, and you guys can come here tomorrow and you can look. I've never paid for views. I've never paid for views in my life. You can look at my channel growth. It's steady. It's organic.
It's okay, bud.
It's going
we
great.
believe you. It's okay.
I understand the vertical streaming. I understand how that works. I'm not hyped up about it. RTP, 125,000 views and 2 comments on your latest video. Only 16,000 subs. Explain.
I started doing YouTube about 3.5, maybe 4 months ago. Before we would just post like TikTok content, I started using YouTube as a live streaming service. Maybe it was longer than that when TikTok went down. And since then, we've had steady growth, roughly 1,200 subscribers added every month. It's really steady. It's going great. What we're doing, people like. So
fair enough. I think all content creators should be doing well and hopefully continue to do so. I'd love to see everybody grow. Kissy Cat says, my late fee. Yes, you were late, Kissy Cat. Unacceptable. RTP, square this circle, the middle class, which was manufacturing jobs historically. If we send them overseas, it doesn't destroy the middle class. Question.
This is a pretty normal problem with this channel, is that nobody understands the argument. The argument wasn't that if we send manufacturing jobs over there that it doesn't hurt the middle class. The argument was that it wasn't the offshoring of manufacturing jobs that led to wealth inequality. But I know that's difficult.
Well, no, it's an argument that you made, but it's nonsensical and non-responsive, right? The fact that these jobs
I asked you for data.
The fact that these jobs were a path to the middle class and had rising wage growth, and now we see wage growth that's going down or it's stagnating because these sort of jobs don't exist anymore. You just said, no, it's about Reagan. It's about trickle down. That's all you said.
Actually, no. What I said is I was far more specific about that. I said that you give the richest among us. They promise you that if we give them more of their money, they'll trickle it down. We gave them more of the money. They offshored manufacturing. They offshored everything they possibly could, and they didn't pay their workers more. We have all-time highs in wealth inequality. That means that trickle down economics, by definition, isn't working. It's not trickling down.
That's not true. What it shows is that it's also true at the same time. What was happening was that we had these policies that were particularly about benefiting these same wealthy people that you're against by allowing them to offshore. Things like tariff are a policy that is designed to bring manufacturing back. Thereby, it would upset the very people that are now sending their businesses overseas, which you just admitted happened. They would be upset because, as you admit, those business owners would have to pay the burden of this. They would have to pay the taxes. Yet somehow you're against that, and you want to protect these wealthy people that have shipped jobs overseas.
I'm responding to this comment that he thinks what I said is that the manufacturing jobs were middle class jobs, and if we send them, it doesn't destroy the middle class. I'm responding to that question, Rob.
Yeah, unresponsive to everything as usual.
It's amazing how often you give yourself victories. It's crazy.
Well, I mean, when you're earning them, I guess it's easy to.
You're doing
talk
great,
about.
bud.
Buddy,
doing great.
Maybe someone who was actually a competent debater and wasn't just an amateur sign maker could have done better.
You're doing great.
We
bud.
deal with what we get put in front of us, right?
You're doing great.
RTP 4,000 on YouTube. Rob makes 22,800 on YouTube. 30-day. What's up, RTP? You cheap. Okay. I mean, I always will say, like, the people have other means of
wait,
of
Rob, you're making
money
$22,000 a month on YouTube, Rob. Do you want to clear that up?
That's what I made last month, I think.
You're making $22,000 monthly on YouTube on average?
I think that's what I made last month. Since I've been streaming full time, I think I've been making over $10,000 a month on YouTube. That's net after YouTube takes their cut. Anyways, you were saying about how shitty my channel is?
I've never said
Thanks, bud. Want to make a sign? Want to make a sign on that too, fuckface?
All right. And same thing from Anthony L for RTP, the master debater. Rob Noir.
I'm fine. I'm not mad at all. It's funny to watch you squirm.
Made over 22 on YouTube compared to your 4K. Take those numbers and shove it.
He's looking it up right now. He's like, can that be true?
No, I wasn't. Jesus Christ, Rob.
RTP, big fan. Allow me to express my admiration in a language you'll understand. Bleep, blurp, bleep, blurp, burp, beep, bunk, burp. What the fuck for grocers? Are you going to also limit wage costs, utility costs, property taxes, and other inputs? Leftists can't match math and engage in hopium.
Brian, let me help you out here. Grocery stores already have margins they work within. What Harris was presenting is that during a pandemic, you should not be able to expand your margins just to take advantage of people who need food. That was the argument. So that wouldn't limit anything. It would only expand, right? Because that margin is already there.
Okay. Lost Advice says, what is RTP claiming? Rob is poisoning the well. He's actively poisoning the well with those rainbow signs. I still would have preferred glitter. That would have made it more fun.
I don't know what that means.
I guess, well, if you're holding up a sign, like, then it kind of extracts attention from whatever Rob is saying. Says Rob, bad faith and poisoning the well literally came with stupid signs. Big L, not one step back. Rob?
Yeah, and I mean, that was the intent. The intent was that he was going to distract from when I was talking, and he was going to use a gimmick because he's incapable of defending the substance of the debate. I was fine. Every time he did it, it just was another example to anyone who's remotely being serious watching this of what a fucking clown he was. Now, I kept my thoughts to myself about it until after the debate, but that's the truth. I'm more than happy to have him continue doing it. It just, every time he does it, shows what a fucking clown he is.
Fair enough. RTP spews out lies like the voice of Sauron. He has no real arguments and has to interrupt Rob's arguments. Everything that RTP accuses Rob of, he is the one who is guilty of. What an embarrassment.
Terrific.
Rob getting it in. Good show, Tomato. What type of tomato are you? I am an angry tomato. Rachel says, RTP, you have resting crybaby face. You look like you look like you plucked your eyebrows until you looked permanently surprised. You look like when AI makes an adult look like a baby. Stop streaming. Aw.
Rachel, I'd worry about your eyebrows that are about 15 years past its prime. They don't do thin eyebrows anymore. We're filling those out a little bit more. Let's not talk about eyebrows with what you've got there.
Fair enough. And since we spent a little more time on the dick measuring contest, I'll come back to the other green super chats a little later after we open the panel, but I want to at least get on and move the show along. If everybody's good, I will go ahead and rock that out. Everybody's settled? All right, good. All right. Everybody knows the drill here. Colby, I think your cam went out. You were fine backstage, and then it suddenly went black. I'm going to pull you back off until you either get into avatar mode or put a face on the screen. I'll bring animatronics up. Okay. Everybody knows the rules. You all know what pisses me off when you interrupt me or somebody else. I get really aggravated, and then I start yelling. I don't want to yell tonight. We've already had a shit show. I'm going to go ahead and let Brick, you were in line first. Go ahead and take it off.
Cool. I like the signs. I love them because Rob don't shut up. Rob don't shut up. This is a fact of the panelverse wherever he's ever been. I've never seen him shut up.
You don't let him cook. He's going to
trying to be polite. That was my plan with the signs, is rather than interrupt, I would just hold it up so we didn't have to argue about it. So I just thought
typical leftist
a nice
self-awareness.
It's got nothing to do with the left.
This is going to go over really well.
It was a literal, hey, you're talking too much. Let me respond. And that's why RTP said, I'm going to show you something, Rob. I'm going to actually teach you that you're actually doing something really stupid. You're walking right off the ledge. And Rob, here's the thing. If you allow the lefty to walk, he'll walk off the ledge. But you want to talk.
Who talked more this debate?
You
think? I talked at greater chunks?
Yeah. At length.
What would you do if someone times it and you're wrong?
Sorry?
What would you do if someone times it and you were wrong?
Someone times it?
What if someone goes through and times it and you're wrong?
Oh my God.
I'll admit
what if the numbers are different?
I'll admit that I'm wrong, but bro,
your opinion means nothing to me. The cope, you talk too much.
Cool.
The signs are cool. Great.
It's not an opinion. I love the signs.
Great.
So anyway, no matter what Kamala Harris would have done, we would be in a worse position now.
Resist. You had to respond back. That's my point. Even if
I responded to the stupidity of it. I responded to the stupidity of it. That's okay.
That I've noticed about you.
You had to respond to me. You had to respond to me. You couldn't let it go.
I don't have to respond to you. Go ahead.
Well, then shut up. See you, fuckface.
There seems to be a common denominator here.
Yeah, two fucking idiots that think those signs were both funny and a good strategy.
It's never you, is it, Rob?
So anyway, RTP.
Yeah.
I noticed that Rob said that you really didn't have any good points, that you really just kind of fumbled everything. It was kind of the genuine thing that he said, right? So tell me about those things that you agreed with him on, because I know there were some things that you actually agreed with him on during this debate so that we can understand how Rob was wrong.
I think this places we found agreement. I do think that Donald Trump's policies, as far as like shutting down the border and bringing less people in, I think that that's worked.
See?
Oh, wow. No
He's
shit.
wrong, though,
He
right,
said
Rob?
some things. He said some things
He's
that
wrong,
agree with
though,
me.
Rob.
And so when I said that he didn't bring up any arguments that were wrong with me, that somehow proves that I was wrong. Wow, man. No wonder you were impressed with the signs, with fucking
It's
logic
actually in
like
my
that.
opening statement. It was actually in there. It's crazy.
Great minds think alike. You guys are doing great.
The cope level is so fucking strong.
So Rob, I got a question for you. You guys didn't really talk about foreign policy at all.
Mm-hmm.
And so like something simple that I think is important to understand is like even on the Western Hemisphere, something like seeing Latin American nations become less like the West, or perhaps developing in some ways their own opinions about things, and that's going to change the relationship. And so Donald Trump has been advertising these sort of like what I describe as micro wins. Like RTP didn't even have to say anything about that. It's almost like you're conceding before the point that there's no transparency. We don't know who, who's influential. Is this going to be a Marco Rubio thing one day?
I mean, the fact that I conceded because I said Trump was doing good in foreign policy and my opponent didn't respond, and the fact that I didn't respond to arguments he didn't make shows I concede, says everything you know about debate strategy. No, I think that Trump's foreign policy has been marginally better than the Biden-Harris administration and better than what Harris would have been. There's 5 or 6 wars that the people involved in them have stopped or agreed to stop, though they may go back later, but they said that Donald Trump helped them out in the negotiations they had. I think that Trump's doing a great job foreign policy wide by negotiating impactful trade deals and other things of that nature, and even policies that I initially point. Even things that I initially disagreed with, like his attacking Iran, I'm still not a big fan of how he did that, but I think that it actually ended up being not as bad as near as it could have been based on the results we've seen since then. So I don't know what you're trying to say, something about Latin America countries that are becoming less Western. I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah, I think when the world is in flux, I would define it as strong leadership is required, and Donald Trump appeared to invite crony leadership, and it's proven that there's a lack of transparency. Not only a lack of transparency, like do you actually know what the largest opportunities and perhaps risks to your own family or your community might be that come from a globalized world? If you can't answer that, then you're never going to convince me or win me over.
Yeah, I think right now, the globalized world, the thing that's most risk to my family are fucking terrible people within this own country that are pushing degenerate lefty bullshit, trying to indoctrinate my children. I think that that's clearly the biggest threat. But what you're saying, I just want to comment on this. You're like, well, is it Rubio's plan? Is it someone else's? Who the fuck's plan was the foreign policy under human vegetable Joe Biden? Who was running the show there?
As lefties were covering it up, by the way.
Joe Biden always had an agenda. And so when you talk about having an agenda, Rob, you understand this. It means we have something to talk about.
Yeah, millions of people crossing the southern border.
Hang on, Rob, you can't.
That's strength.
Bro, you're
that's
not allowed to get away with
diplomacy.
that. Tell me, Rob asked you something specific. Who was setting foreign policy when Vegetable Biden was in office? Couldn't even remember where he was. Couldn't go out.
I don't know who Vegetable Biden is, Andrew.
Yeah, well, okay.
Well,
let me
explain
explain.
who Vegetable Biden is.
The guy,
obviously,
the guy who was completely unable to even make coherent sentences
in office of the president. You mean, Andrew?
Yeah, that guy. When he was checked out, he was clearly out to lunch, and the left was all over the place saying, no, he has all of his cognitive faculties.
Sharp
and
as a
clearly
tack.
that wasn't true.
Whole narrative.
Can you tell me who was setting policy then? It wasn't the president. Who was it?
So one example is you can read the Biden briefs. I know I look crazy right now, but you can read the Biden briefs on the White House website, Andrew, that demonstrate and show Joe Biden took a different approach to things like the Abraham Accords, which would be more inclusive of problems like stagnation in North African economies, like sub-Saharan Africa, and like having a more cosmopolitan view.
Can you repeat back the question I asked you?
I don't know. It was probably
you don't know the question. You don't even fucking know.
It was probably incoherent. You win, Andrew. There you go. I got kicked anyways. So why don't you go fuck yourself one more time, buddy?
So how was that foreign policy? See it out of Afghanistan and cause one of the
feeling the
biggest
lefties
things.
are doing just great, and we would be doing even better, right? If Kamala Harris was in office.
I agree. True that.
Rob, I have a question for you.
Sure. What's up, Ed?
Completely explain how that would be the case.
At the beginning of the debate, when you guys were arguing over the debt, do you understand why picking the year that a president starts and the year that the president ends is not an actual metric of the amount of debt that they create? That statutorily spending goes across presidential years into others. In fact, the entire first budgetary year of a president is from the previous president. Therefore,
all the good stuff is your president's.
The debt
and all the bad stuff is our president.
Responsible for, and not what happens within the years of their president, because a lot of it is not their spending.
So what we can see, it's the best metric that we have, unless you would get to pointing out the year after versus the year previous, and even that's not going to be
the amount of debt that they created, right?
Let me finish, right? Like, it's going to be a better metric to look at the actual amount of deficit that was there, or the debt that was there when they came into office versus when they left, than would be to some nebulous, well, we're predicting what could happen through CBO scores, etc. in the future. Now, we're not one full year into Donald Trump this time. So would you admit then that any debt that's arisen right now under Donald Trump will show up eventually only in year 2, and so any debt that's accrued based on this year would be Joe Biden's debt?
Yeah, a lot of it in his first year is going to be previous spending.
Okay, so then you can see the problem. We don't have a full picture of that yet. But when we're looking at the full picture of his claim that Biden spent less than Trump, do you agree with that claim, by the way?
Yes, absolutely.
I don't think that's going to be
all the
borne out
metrics are that Trump added 8.4 trillion to the debt, and that Biden is somewhere close to 5.
Okay, prove to me that Trump added 8.4 trillion. What years are you looking at to show that? The first year of Biden?
Yeah, his first terms.
So you would say that you would look at
like he's
Trump's
not president anymore, so you can accumulate all the things that he enacted.
So just to be clear, you would say we look at year 2. We look at year 2 of Trump into year 1 of Biden. That's the debt we should be looking at.
No, it's not by year. It's by what they did in office. Right?
I think that what you'll see. Right? I think that what you'll see is right that a lot of this spending.
If he signs something in year 4, it could affect the first year of the next president, right?
What we would see is that things that are being spent.
Just fucking agree to basic logic, bro. Come on.
It is true that if there are things that we're spending that would have continued to spend there forward, that would be things that would be considered part of their debt. But by the same token, then you wouldn't say that Trump. Let me finish. Let me finish. Then you're going to fall under the same trap. You said that Trump spent $8.3 billion. Prove it. None of that debt that he spent was from prior obligations that were made from Barack Obama or even George W. Bush in front of him.
Well, no, those are attributed to those presidents.
Okay, so then how can you specifically say? How could you specifically say that it was 8.3
laws that he signed, right?
So okay, so point them out. So where's the data you're getting? Show me. You made a declarative statement. You said that he spent 8.3 trillion. Show me. Where's the data you're getting?
I'm not going to.
In his mind.
That's what I thought. It's just I've heard lefties say. I've heard groups.
Half this debate has been like, pull out the documents.
You're the one who's saying.
This is easy shit to find. This is really easy shit to find.
If it's easy to find it. What you're going to do, I'll tell you what you'll find. You'll find some group.
You couldn't even understand the fucking debt and how it's
I do understand the debt. I do
understand
the debt.
You've proven it over and over and over tonight that you don't.
You could just keep saying, no, you don't.
Okay, so find your fucking find your source then, dude.
What you're going to do is you're going to provide some sort of like partisan group that's going to say, we predict that Trump spending would be very big and Biden spending would be very little. It's bullshit.
Sounds about right, Rob.
Pardon me for just a moment. I'm going to step away for just a second. I'm going to put Abe in my spot. He's going to mitigate. Give me 2 minutes. I'll be right back. Just Abe, redirect if you need to. Use your big boy voice.
Yeah, Rob, why are you saying that, like, whatever he's going to pull up is from a hyper-partisan source? But if I recall correctly, the first source he pulled up in this debate was from a hyper-partisan source.
What was that source?
Was it wrong?
I was listening, so I heard someone.
Was it wrong? Because if not, then it's irrelevant. Was it wrong?
Well, I think it was.
Yes, it was. Yes, it was wrong.
It's not wrong. By the way, hang on, real quick.
Hold on.
Ryan,
that everybody is citing just to work.
No, Ryan, you're speaking through the wrong mic.
Or CRFB.
Okay,
that's the source.
You're fucking welcome.
Thank you, Andrew. Hopefully, I can get more than 5 minutes with you at some point, but
that's everybody keeps forcing that side that keeps dropping.
So, can I ask a question, RTP? What was when you say that Biden had an overall growth bigger than Trump's? Then why did we see inflation spike so high under his term versus when we saw it under Trump's term and it didn't hardly spike at all?
So you cut out the first time. He had an overall what?
you were stating earlier in the debate that Biden had a better rise of growth whenever it came to gaining money for average people. How can you say that whenever Biden's inflation rate was over 9%?
Rob, do you know what he's referencing? I don't think that's how I said it. I'm not sure if
I'm sorry, it was a little murky. I'm so sorry. If you could repeat it. I didn't hear it.
I think he's referencing.
I could be rephrasing it wrong. But whenever you were bringing up about the real growth wages increase, you stated that Joe Biden had a higher real growth wage increase than Trump did in his first term.
That's correct. You did say that.
He did.
So if you're saying he had a higher wage growth increase, how the fuck was his inflation rate over 9% whenever Donald Trump's first term never went over 2.2?
So what I cited was the average monthly gain. I could pull up those numbers to answer your question. I could look at the source again.
This is exactly.
And that's different from what they keep saying. You said, right? That's a different thing. That's a different metric.
No. I can clear this up.
Yeah.
I can clear this up. This is what was said. He said wage growth was up, and he cited numbers that said wage growth. I said wage growth's irrelevant. What matters is real wage growth. And he said, yes, that's what I said, real wage growth. When I said pull it up because I knew that those numbers are inaccurate, he then changed and said, oh, no. I'm saying on average monthly it was up. I said, can you explain how if it was down over the full term of Biden's presidency, how on average it was up monthly? Then he changed what we mean by average. He said, oh, what I mean is most months it was up compared to most months it was down. But the initial number that he cited, like 2.2 to 2.7%, was clearly not saying some months it was up, some months it's down. He's lying. He moved the goalpost.
I didn't cite those numbers, and it's written down.
Yes,
like it was part of my opening statement. It's written down. Literally, it says average monthly gain 0.24 for Trump, average monthly gain 0.29 for Biden. Rob is lying. Rob didn't understand what I was saying.
That's literally making my point. That literally makes my point, you dumb bastard.
Shut the fuck up, dumb piece of shit. Shut the fuck up for 12 seconds.
Okay.
Just shut the fuck up. It's not your turn.
You want me to put a
dumb
sign
bitch. Yeah, it's written on my paper. You can go look at the edit
measuring,
history.
Gentlemen.
It's like it is what it is. Rob didn't understand what I was saying, and that's
He's too stupid. Real quick. Please. He's too stupid to realize he just proved my point. My point was this. The number he was citing was just wage growth, not real wage growth. That's what he cited. I said we shouldn't prefer that. We should prefer real wage growth. He then said, no, that is real wage growth. I said, no, I don't think, prove it. Then he said it was average monthly. Okay, now he's back. Do you see how fucking ridiculous it is? Now he's back to the original argument. Show the source that shows that Biden's real wage growth was up like 2.4% month over month.
We can pull it again.
This is leftist debate. There's no positions. There's just principles.
I would
challenge the other way. There's no principles. There's just positions.
All right.
When I need it for me here,
over each other, I start reading money, and you all shut up and take a deep breath for a minute. Basil says this is a Christian nationalist channel. Sarah the Raging Tomato is a Doug Wilson plant. What's a Doug Wilson plant?
Doug Wilson? What?
To just give you that's the guy that Pete Hegseth just retweeted that was like, women shouldn't vote. That's Doug Wilson.
Basil also says, I propose the following debate topic. Is Sarah the Raging Tomato a Christian nationalist puppet? Oh, all right. Have fun with that one, chat. I just wanted to ask RTP and Rob when the greasy orange tyrant will release the files unredacted.
When the courts allow, maybe?
He could release them unredacted now. We're talking about the grand jury testimony. You have to rely on the courts, but he could release everything now if he wanted to. He just doesn't want to do it for some reason.
Sure.
Unless
why didn't Biden want to do it?
Unless intelligence agencies warn.
I don't know. I think Biden probably didn't release it because there's intelligence conflicts there, and Biden's kind of a cuck to Israel, just like Trump is, just like everybody is.
Do you think that's? Hang on. Do you think that's the reason, RTP, or do you think it's because Obama gave him such a sweetheart deal and made him an FBI informant?
Who?
Epstein.
That Biden made Epstein an FBI? Obama made. I don't know. You don't know?
Let's see. I know
that he was an FBI informant.
Well, hang on. When do you think, under whose administration was Epstein brought in as an FBI informant?
I think that was 2007. Is that right?
Whose administration?
That was 2007, right? I just want to make sure that's the right year.
Bush.
Can you just tell me
it was around the time 2007?
I think it was Bush, wasn't it?
That made him an FBI informant, gave him the
I
sweetheart
think that was
deal?
I think it was in 2007.
Why
that
don't you
that
pull it
happened. That was
up
under
real quick?
Bush.
Pull it up.
When he got the sweetheart deal in Florida, that was 2007, right?
Yeah.
Well,
I'm not
you're
sure. Oh,
pulling
shocker!
that
I'm
up.
right again.
RTP
Hold
dismantled
up.
Rob's talking points and conspiracy theories on the origins of Russia investigation. Thanks for educating us and hopefully his followers.
That's the best
RTP, you look pretty soft. RTP's views are virgin views, like Mary, Immaculate Conception, I guess.
Sorry.
That's okay. Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead and respond. I'll come back.
Non-prosecution agreement was in 2007 under Obama, and then that
Who?
awesome.
Wait, who?
Or I mean, under Bush. I meant Bush. Sorry.
Oh,
2007. Yeah, sorry. But I was good. But then Acosta, the guy who gave him that sweetheart deal, then
Right,
Trump's like,
it was
"Hey,
Acosta
you
who
should
did
come
it.
work in my administration." And by the way, Pam Bondi, who oversaw it, you should work in my administration too.
Yeah.
And Dershowitz,
Bondi was
why
the
don't
one
you
who
go
decided
on?
not to fund
Why
it.
don't you go defend?
So therefore, Kamala would have been a better president.
wait
That's the
a second.
conclusion from
Wait a
this.
second. I
When
just
to
wanna
bring
make
this
sure.
up, you just basically
I
showed
never
that
brought
Trump's
this
entire
up. Andrew
administration
brought
has been
this up.
all over Epstein for like
Hang on.
over 10
Hang on.
years.
So I just want to make sure then. So before Obama, this guy's an FBI informant under Obama's administration, correct?
And Bush, yeah, and
So how
Trump.
come Obama didn't say anything about the fact that Epstein was working with the FBI in order to bring people to this island in order to blackmail them? Do you think?
I don't know.
Do you think that if it were the case that we found out that Obama knew that there was blackmail, this type of blackmail going on, that Biden would have some sort of like incentive in order to cover up this legacy? RTP?
Sure.
Yeah. So do you think it stands to reason that's what happened?
I think that that's
No.
a possible reason.
Yeah. Well, could you
but
give
it's
me
the same
any
with
other
Trump to
reason?
me.
Like just from inductive
really
reasons.
see-
Just from
Yeah,
inductive
Because that would be
reasoning.
bad for his argument, Andrew.
Well, I
That would be
think-
bad for his
Is he
argument.
Seems like
disagreeing
we're
with
shifting
you
a little
right
bit.
now?
considering
I don't know
all of
what's
it
going on.
happening.
I'm agreeing with.
What is
now
this?
you
agreeing with them.
all
They don't know what to do with it.
better than to start doing
Well,
that.
I'm just asking. I'm just going to ask real quick, inductively. Could you come up with any other explanation other than that he did not want to release this because it would have made the Obama administration look really bad, thus making him look bad since he was the VP in that administration, and they were working on blackmail during Obama's administration, flying out various people to an island in order to sexually blackmail them?
Could I come up with other?
What would be a more
hypotheticals?
plausible explanation than that?
I think that's impossible to say, honestly. Like we don't
Yeah,
know
exactly.
enough details. But I could say that there's. Well, I could offer different explanations, but it would be hard to say like which one is more likely, right? Like how would we prove which one's more likely?
I think that you can demonstrate this pretty easy. The Obama administration was there for 2 terms. You agree?
Yeah.
And Epstein was running as an FBI informant during those 2 terms, flying people out to PDF File Island, right? During those 2 administrations under Obama's FBI. Why is it that they never released anything on Epstein?
Well, believe it or not, there's a history of our FBI and our intelligence agencies not keeping the president abreast of what's going on.
So you think that they hid it from Obama?
They could have.
So Trump has every reason not to trust the FBI?
What's that?
Trump has every reason not to trust the FBI because they hide things from him? Oh, okay.
Sure.
so now one last question for you.
I haven't made any claims about
I just have one last question for you.
Yeah.
You say that you're not a Democrat or a progressive.
Correct.
What is your political affiliation?
I'm a registered Republican, but just because I live in an area where like Andy Biggs is my congressman, so if I want to vote, it's basically the primary is the only way I can have impact. I voted for Gary Johnson in 2020, and I voted for Harris this last time begrudgingly.
Yeah, that's not what I'm not asking who you voted for. I'm just asking if you had to summarize your politics, what would the summarization be?
I don't know that you could. I think that
you can't summarize your politics.
I would say that I don't. There's not. See, you do this all the time. You think because you're an ideologue, everybody else is.
No, I'm not. I'm just asking you to give a summarization of your politics.
What is it that you think? I'm not Andrew. So what do you think about politics? Let's start there. That's all he's asking you
about politics. I think.
Would you call
there's
yourself a
growth.
socialist, libertarian?
No.
What would you call yourself?
I
Closest
wouldn't
to.
call myself anything.
Retard.
Let me ask you this real quick. You voted for Gary Johnson in 2020, and yet you're a horrible dissenter of trickle-down economics, so you voted for a libertarian?
Well, I used to be a Republican. Like I worked on Romney's presidential campaign. I was a Republican most of my life. So I went from
So you're just
Republican to,
confused.
like libertarian to. Well, I'm not confused. It's just that I accept new data, and I
I.
whatever argument.
Well,
is
hang
correct.
on. Maybe we can try
So
this
if
a
I'm-
different
if
way.
I'm-
I'm MAGA atheist. I'm not in any box.
When
Hang
I
on, hang on.
finish-
What if we just ask
I
this
told-
way?
Andrew, shut the fuck up. Let me finish my answer.
Dude,
Thank
calm
you.
down. I just want to make
it's
sure.
crazy. I know, but just shut the fuck up for a
Yeah,
second.
but
I'm
I
doing it
just
with a
want the
smile on
actual
my face.
politic
I'm
fluid.
doing it with a smile on my face.
It was such a
Well,
basic
I
question.
finished. Yeah,
Yeah,
I
you're
don't-
that
I
you're
don't
not
identify-
answering.
I don't identify with any of these.
Okay,
parties. I
so
think all
no,
of them are pretty flawed.
So you're at a party, and this like 25-year-old hottie toddy that you're interested in comes over
wouldn't
and
be
sits
interested in a
down,
25-year-old.
okay, and says, "Hey, man." Right, like,
Mm-hmm.
okay, 35, okay, 65, whatever you're interested in.
Now we're
Like,
talking
the
16, I mean.
the 65-year-old,
Stop that.
the 65-year-old geriatric comes in and
There
sits
we
down
go.
and says, "Hey, Sonny, can you explain what your politics are?" Your answer is, "Well, I don't fucking know," or do you have an actual answer?
My answer is you should watch my show. You can figure it out. You can judge for
Oh,
yourself.
okay, so you can't give a summarization for your actual.
Nah, I'm
politics.
good.
No, I'm not an
if you
ideologue.
were-
I know this is very.
That's not
confusing with you,
ideology.
Andrew.
That's just asking you what your political persuasion.
That's
is.
just
but you
ideas.
would align with an
Ideas
ideology.
and
The reason-
ideology
reason
are
that-
different
The
things.
reason that you guys all want to do this is because you have a hard time attacking arguments. But what you do.
Okay,
really
so make
well
an
is
argument
looping
as to why
everyone-
Kamala would be better.
Indian
You loop,
Jesus,
you
chill.
loop everything in. That's what you guys like to do. So you want to loop me in with other people that think like me rather than having a
I
real
just want a
discussion.
summarization of your politics. That's all I'm asking
And
for.
while you
I
think
don't
about
think
the
you can do a quick
summarization of your
summarization.
politics, I would
Okay,
like
then
to
give us a
inform
long one.
everyone, pardon me for just a moment. I'd
Pass.
like to tell everyone I am shutting down the tomato side and moving over to the gauntlet. Either go to the link that I'm dropping in the chat now or follow the raid. Thank you. Okay, back to you.
I can sum it up for him. Orange man bad.
Yep.
That's your politics.